Have you ever watched something that completely rewired your brain chemistry?
A procedural network drama might not be your usual pick, but it's ours.
This is The Buddie System, a 911 deep dive podcast hosted by three friends who have DM'd each other enough character dissertations to earn a PhD in media literacy. I'm Han, coming to you straight from the characters' heads.
I'm Sil, bringing you to the observation deck.
And I'm Rachel, connecting the dots with my red string. With our powers combined,
No stone is left unturned.
and no buddy is left behind.
This week we're discussing Season 2, Episode 18, This Life We Choose, written by Tim Minear and directed by Bradley Bucher.
Bradley Bucher.
I'll say it normally, Bradley Bucher. Originally aired...
Using the other one, telling you right now.
We need to come up with Tim's name doesn't lend itself to like that kind of pomp and circumstance.
I'm sorry, I was supposed to say Tim Minear. Was what it was supposed to be. I forgot. Okay, originally aired Monday, May 13th, 2019.
So we have, of course, a few calls of the week. The first one being like fork found in kitchen, backpack found in schoolyard. Mass panic ensues when news about the serial bomber reaches the public, which causes an abundance of caution to call in the bomb squad for a suspicious backpack left on the playground of an elementary school, which turns out to be a false alarm, but they're later not so lucky when a package arrives at the doorstep of Athena's home. Our next call is, with a little resties and an insane amount of luck, you too can look like me. Ka-chow. Where an Evel Knievel-esque stunt performer gets stuck in the engine of his beloved car. The next is, I'm a beautiful butterfly. A beauty influencer is caught on her live stream, falling and breaking her clavicle when a botfly emerges from her face. And our last, and let's be real, our most important call is Bucko Boom. The 118 becomes the serial bomber's latest target when one of the engines is outfitted with an explosive and detonates en route to a call, crushing Buck, who becomes pinned underneath the blast.
Would you say he's getting pinned like a butterfly? Anyway.
Oh god, I am so glad that I don't mind making fun of being absolutely ridiculous in perpetuity. I'm a beautiful butterfly. That's from The Bug's Life.
So, thoughts, feelings, concerns about this episode?
The pyrotechnics were amazing.
I'm
sorry, I can't take this.
Oh my god.
We're off to a really bad start already. And that was before we hit record.
So we're at the end of the season 2. It's kind of wild that we finally made it here. It feels like just yesterday we were gearing up for episode 1 of season 2, where we finally got to see Eddie.
Does it?
No.
But you know what? Season 2 has felt a lot shorter than season 1 did. And that was
true.
only 10 episodes.
How is this almost twice as long? And it feels like we've just like boom, boom, boom. This season is almost twice as long, and it just seems like we've been going through them faster.
Good season.
It's an excellent season.
It's
love
a good
this
season. Eddie's there. Maddie's there.
That helps.
There's no Abby.
I'm trying so hard as we go through this episode to like not do the paralleling it to everything in the previous season or throughout the season, because like I know that will be for our season 2 wrap and we'll have a lot to say there. So I'm trying to stick it to like this episode, but it
how about I help you if you start doing that? I'll go.
It sounds good.
Yeah,
that's fair. But I do think this is a really great final episode to this season. I think that it bookends things very well. Everybody has like a very full character arc. We get to know the characters a lot better. I think the inclusion of, that wasn't I was going to say like the inclusion of the Begins episodes, but that's
She's
not this episode.
Censoring herself. Yes.
Yeah, I really like how they end this episode. It is more hopeful for all but one. All but one.
I don't know. Eddie's not doing so hot either.
Not great, but it's better off.
I mean, he can work.
Well, I thought it was an explosive episode. I'm sorry.
That one is fair. That one I think is fair game because it is.
It is.
Like Rachel said, it really is really bookended. We get to see like where they started and how they ended. You know, a lot of character growth. We've got good setup for the next season, I guess. Bobby and Athena are married. Buck. And I mean, this is the beginning of Eddie's insanity arc. Honestly, yeah,
it's still going.
We never stopped.
7 years. 7 years long.
7 years running. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. Like I don't know. Like this is just it's a good ending. I think I'm just so used to. Okay, so like this is the only show that kind of never really given me like one of those like oh my god cliffhangers that I'm like
at the end of a season.
So that there's so much anxiety. And I know that we got to binge it, but it was like, oh no, it's nice. Like, okay, so like we can still build off of that. There's still some like cliffhangers here and there, but they're not like, oh my god, like what I have to know what happens. Or is a character in peril? I don't really feel like a character's in peril. Well, I guess except Buck's leg is a...
I mean, that's more of like his future is in peril as opposed to like life or death situation, which I feel like so many shows do provide in a season finale. Like, and we've talked about this before where 911 kind of flips that, where like those big emergencies, those big cliffhangery things are at the beginning of a season. And when they come back from the mid-season, like the winter break, I do like that formula. And it's nice to kind of like not have to stress as much about most things for, you know, another 3 months.
Yeah, I just I just like that Tim Minear just wraps things up with a nice little bow, you know, not one that is set on fire slowly but surely. Burning away, but anyway, sorry, that was weird.
It was fine.
You know me.
I have 2 things I need to say before my thoughts. The first one, I just have to say because I'll forget if I don't. You were like, oh, doesn't give us giant cliffhangers like other shows. My brain went supernatural. I thought Demon Dean, and then I was like, they can't really do that on this show. And I went, I know exactly how they can do that, and it would be great, and I would love to see it. This is what, like, after Buddy's already together, I think, probably. This is how they could successfully do a presumed dead arc.
Oh, no.
Everyone thinks they're dead, but we, the audience, see them before the episode
I'm on board.
Yes.
Because we're not stressed out, but the characters are stressed out.
But we're stressed out for the other characters who think that they're dead.
That is really quite preferable to us being stressed out, not knowing if the characters are dead or alive. Yeah. But like that would be fun.
Because otherwise you're gonna have people rioting, right? But that's how they did Demon Dean, though, right? Yeah. We were like, you fucking killed Dean, like killed him, because like they come back to life much like they do on this show, you know. But like makes more sense because supernatural.
Yeah.
And then the very last shot, if you haven't gone to Supernatural, what fucking season is that?
That's
end of 9
going into 10.
End of 9. Yep. So the very last thing you see, like they kill Dean, and the very last thing you see is him open his eyes, and his eyes are black
like a demon,
which means you're a demon.
That was, and honestly, when we were when Sil was talking about the cliffhanger stuff, I immediately thought of Demon Dean.
Yes,
because that was like the most cliffhanger they ever gave us.
So anyway, they should do that. Now, my on topic thing, not really on topic. When you saw me laughing earlier, Rachel, I think.
Oh yeah, I caught
talking about like, Sil was like, oh, it's a really good bookend, and I was like, oh, the first episode is called Under Pressure, and we end with Buck literally under
The pressure of the truck.
The pressure of the truck.
Uh-huh.
Hilarious.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No, there's something, and I don't know if we want to really go into it in this episode. I think I would like to have a dedicated like little segment in our season wrap about the parallels specifically between the setup from the season premiere and the finale, and how thematically and a bunch of stuff that they like really kind of are perfect bookends to each other. There's just like a couple things that I'll point out here now, but I think I would like to go into more depth in the wrap, because every under pressure for sure. I actually went back to when I was rewatching this episode today. I went back and rewatched a little bit of 201 also, so I could like compare a couple things. So that's how you know they go together.
But my general thoughts are very much along the lines of Syl and Rachel's. I think it's a really good episode by itself. I think it's a really good ending to the bomber arc they started. I think it's a really good ending to the season. Mm-hmm. And I think they do a really good job, I think, of like setting, not only like giving you like the conclusion of kind of what's been going on lately, but also setting them up for like where they're going to be going next. Yes. So like they wrap it in a bow, but it's not like everything's great and perfect and we should just end the show here. You know what I mean? Like you're it's ready to see what's happening next.
It's not giving the finale of season 6. And I think this is also another thing that 911 does do very well. Like just generally is for their season finales, they set things up so you know exactly where these characters are going to be when we pick them up in the next season. Like it's a very clear delineation. There's no just even with the time jumps that they have, like it's just like, okay, and we're going to be dealing with this for this character. We're going to be dealing with this for that character. Mm-hmm. And they will all like mesh and intermingle together in different ways. But that is kind of what you have to do when you don't have a big cliffhanger. You have to you have to like lay the groundwork for what you're going to jump off of next time, as opposed to just like tying it with a little bow. Like this is it. We don't have to go any further with that. No, it's like, you know, it keeps you interested, invested. Mm-hmm. I can't wait till we get to season 6. I'm good. Oh my God. I have so many thoughts. That's a while.
We're gonna need the jaws of life over here.
Let's start the deep dive.
All right. So, Buck's not the only one that needs the jaws of life. That was terrible.
Ma'am.
Well, okay. Just moving on. This being the season finale, there were a number of articles that came out. They were all, or the ones that I found were interviews with Tim Minear. So I'll pull up a couple different quotes from those. He's talking, I mean, just generally, like there's a lot of overlapping information and comments here. Like he says kind of the same things about Bobby and Athena, but there were a couple quotes that I thought were interesting or something, you know, kind of enlightening. So the first article was from The Wrap. This was written by Jennifer Moss. And it's 911 Chief on that crushing finale, Bobby's big decision, and Maddie and Chimney's future. So this interviewer, Jennifer Moss, asked about Maddie and Chimney finally getting together after, you know, that kind of will they, won't they? And they won't for a while of the season. And asks, like, does that mean we're in store for a real relationship next season? And Tim Minear says, I think what I wanted to see as a fan after all of the trauma of season 2 was to be reassured that the foundations of these relationships were intact. And I love that he's looking at it from like a fan of the show perspective. I think that is generally what he does. Like he writes or he gears the show in a way when he's show running in a way that it's something that he in turn would want to see. And I think, you know, like writers are supposed to write what they know and artists like draw what they see. I think that's like the same kind of thing. So
good way to think of show running. I like
yes. That. Thank you for completing that sentence for me. So he says, I think it was right for her to take a beat, for Maddie to take a beat, and for them both to have time to reflect. but he wanted to go out on a hopeful feeling. And I think that's what they accomplished there with Maddie and Chimney. And then moving on to Bobby and Athena getting married at the courthouse. So she asked, like, why did Bobby and Athena do that instead of the big wedding that they've been planning? And Tim emphasized that, as with the theme of this episode and pretty much the theme of the show, it's that Bobby and Athena know that life can change on a dime, and sometimes planning is a fool's errand, and you have to live in the moment and not wait for something to happen because you never know what's around the corner. And he thought it was a perfect bookend to the end of season 1 with Bobby and Athena, where we see Bobby, going to his date with Athena and throwing away his little book, and they sit across from each other, and suddenly it's a world of possibility. So I think that's this kind of realized in that way. The next article I found from TV Line, and this is from Andy Swift. So 911 executive producer tackles those romantic finale twists, teases Buck's season 3 crisis. So one of the first things Andy Swift, the interviewer for this one, asked about was the call with the botfly, the maggot. And Tim just laughed and said that was definitely a shout out to the Twitterverse. And I mean, pretty.
Oh, right. Never mind.
And I mean, I think it's pretty.
Shout out to my gays.
Yeah.
Shout out to my girls, gays, and theys. That's what he said.
He was really like, yeah, all of those people in the chat on the live stream, like, shout out to you guys. And I'm just like, I think sometimes he perceives a little too much, but it's fine. It's fine. So I just wanted to highlight that. And the interviewer goes on to say, what made you decide to give everybody a relatively happy ending? Tim Menier says, again, it's what he would have wanted as a fan. And when you look at the end of season 1, it's pretty similar. In fact, it's a bookend, but it can't all be roses. So we left Buck having an existential crisis. And I think that's one of his favorite things to do for like a mid-season or a finale, is to just leave Buck in crisis.
Boy's been having an existential crisis since we met him.
Yeah.
He's been having Buck has been having an existential crisis since he was born, whether he knew it or not. So,
that's true.
And speaking of Buck, the interviewer said that, they also really liked Buck with Allie, felt like Buck needed someone who understands his passion for his job. And Tim is speaking about Allie in what he says, that with Allie, it was important to have someone that doesn't choose this life, who's outside of that and seeing everything from a different point of view. And it's not like Abby in the season finale of season 1. Like, this with Buck and Allie is still very much the beginning of a relationship, but it's a grown-up woman choosing to face something. I mean, I know there are similarities. But
what episode did they get together?
Buck, actually.
Which was episode 8? Okay. Which is almost halfway through the season. They've been together for six-ish months, maybe a little less. Because if this whole season is a year, which is what we're supposed to believe because it's Eddie's probationary year.
I don't think it's a full year. I think it goes like from fall to springish, summer.
How long is a firefighter's probation?
Google. 12 months.
Says
I looked up LAFD specifically. 12 months.
Does that include the academy?
Doesn't include the academy, no.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think he means in the beginning of a relationship in terms of time, but just like they've spent a lot of time apart. So there's still, so it wouldn't be as,
true.
That's what I think he means. Like, it's the beginning of of a relationship in their relationship, not as like the time that has passed that they have been quote unquote together. Because also we haven't seen that. So he says, Allie is a grown up woman choosing to face something honestly, and she doesn't really know how she feels about it right now. So that's where they are. So it is different with Abby, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we get to that. And the next kind of interesting bit was, how this season we've been saying, yeah, they decided to kill Shannon way early in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So this interviewer, I was very interested in this question, said, I'm glad Eddie isn't going back to El Paso. And then that just triggered me for season 8. So glad Eddie isn't going back to El Paso. Us too. But what made you decide to kill off Shannon last week with episode 17? And Tim says, and I'm not sure how much I actually believe this little part, but here's the honest truth. A lot of the audience had trouble accepting her because of Eddie's origin story, how he came into this world and how he came across. So anyone who would walk away from Christopher, even if we hadn't met her yet, was going to be facing an uphill battle with the audience. I agree with that. I don't necessarily agree that they decided to kill her off after they saw a lot of the fan reaction.
That's not what he said, though.
Well, he said, no, that's not what he said. But he says,
I think that was a deflect.
Yes. No, that's what I'm trying to say. He said, I saw a lot of fan reaction to the character, and it did make Eddie's character more interesting and give him something to react against.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't actually answer the question. He makes it sound like they decided to do it because of the fan reaction. But from what we've seen, I don't think so, because they'd been building that up since before she even showed up.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that, like, they were aware of the fan reaction. And I think that's also, like, a fan reaction to that is kind of stupid. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is coming from like a supernatural background where any of the female love interests were like completely hated upon, or like any of the female characters for so long were just like totally hated upon online. So that's kind of what I got from his answer here. But it is, truthfully, it is hard to introduce a character where you have so much kind of like up against them, because their reputation has preceded them with Shannon. So I understand that, but I do think they still were planning it the whole time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then Tim says, I do love Devin Kelly, who plays Shannon. She's a great actor who reminds me of every 70s movie star I ever loved. And I can't wait to work with her again. We know. We know. Just like, I don't know. I feel like there's something there about her reminding him of all of the 70s movie stars and him loving 70s movies and him just like having a fascination with Devin Kelly and bringing her back every opportunity he can, which like totally fair. She's awesome. I just thought that was really funny. And then he continues to crack me up. Oh my God.
Timberly.
I need to stop having a parasocial relationship with Tim Minear. It's like I'm in his head. I'm not. And then our last article is from TV Insider. This is by Meredith Jacobs. It's 911 boss on Bobby and Athena's big moment and Buck's perilous position in the season 2 finale. And Meredith Jacobs asks about saying that, you know, being a firefighter is his life. It's what matters to him. So what's his mindset when he's trapped under the truck and finds out that he maybe should not have surgery right away, but decides to? So Tim says Buck has really come a long way in the 2 seasons for firefighting. It's a career, it's a calling, it's all of those things for him, and it's his family too. And Bobby is kind of a father figure to him, and he doesn't feel like he has any other choice. And sort of, it's kind of like at the beginning of Bobby's speech at Eddie's shield ceremony, where Bobby said, "Sometimes I think this life chooses us," and it's one of those things for Buck. This life chose him a little bit. So Buck is in a place where he's had a real moment of existential crisis. And again, they were going out on a season with Buck in the most perilous place of any of the characters. The next question I wanted to highlight was, Eddie made a home for himself and his son, but how much of a struggle is it for him not to fall back on the support system of his family after losing his wife? And this is a really great article. I think it had a lot of very interesting questions. So everyone should check that out. But Tim replied with, Eddie's family is kind of split. I learned a new word. It's called bifurcated, which is like a river taking 2 paths. I was like, ooh, that's a good SAT word. So his immediate family, his mother and his father and his sisters, are all in El Paso. And he spent his formative years growing up there. And this is, I think, the lore drop that I didn't really know. So he said they probably moved there when he was still in grade school or high school at the most. But his family originated in Los Angeles, so he's got this extended family of his abuela and his Aunt Peppa and a support system out there. And I thought that was really interesting because I had always kind of been a little curious how we got Peppa and Abuela in LA, but everyone else was in El Paso. So this is the little Tim's own headcanon about, you know, how Eddie's family is kind of like separate, and he's always kind of like pulled between two sides in that a little bit. I guess beforehand, Tim says, you know, he's making a great life here for himself, and for Eddie, it's all about Christopher. So because Eddie doesn't want to uproot Christopher. And even though Shannon has died, Eddie's in a weirdly good place because he has finished his probationary period and he's got these people around him to support him. And it's partially his extended family too. So it's the family that he chose with the 118 and some of his more supportive blood family. So extended family, because Lord knows some of them are not supportive. And then just in speaking about Maddie being content at the call center after seeing the people, seeing how she changed people's lives, and that was the last episode, right? And Tim Onier said, you know, Maddie says to Josh and Sue that she didn't really choose this being in at dispatch, and it was more like she was running away and hiding, and this was a place for her to nest and be safe. Would she have chosen this if she didn't have to choose it? So going through everything that she did, now she's not at dispatch to keep from dying. She's there to live, or she's not there in LA on the run to keep from dying because of Doug. She's there to live. So it's the same job, but it means something new to her. And I thought that was a nice way to kind of bookend Maddie's story as well. But that was mostly for the last episode too. So that covered that for press. I think they were some really good articles. I think that last one from TV Insider is really insightful. The interviewer asked a lot of really good questions, or interesting questions. So definitely go check it out. I think, are we ready to drop that needle, Han?
Okay, so just a couple songs from this episode. The first one is Tusk by Fleetwood Mac, and mostly it's just a fun one because it's Fleetwood Mac, and the vibes just kind of match the opening montage that it's playing during, where it's like all of the false calls from, you know, the people of LA being like, oh, I have the bomber pinned, and it's just a mailman who isn't the usual mailman. Oh, my neighbor who has an accent. Yeah. Yeah. So all of the calls that they were getting that were exactly. And then I think if they were looking at the lyrics, why they might have chosen it is we have things that are like, why don't you tell me what's going on? Why don't you tell me who's on the phone? Why don't you ask him what's going wrong? Yeah, that repeats a couple of times, but otherwise, lyrically, not really.
Just going for vibes more.
Just going for vibes. Then we have A Sanctuary by While She Arms, which I feel like everyone knows this song. If you're like in the fandom, this is a big one for us. And this plays while the surrounding crowd at the ladder truck explosion come and help move the truck off of Buck. And just some choice lyrics from this one. I'm not going to say this is our sanctuary. You know that. We can find shelter and peace. You are safe with me. That's the whole chorus. This is our sanctuary. You can find shelter and peace, and you're safe with me. And then that's basically the vibe of the whole song. It's kind of more romantic song. I think Lonnie on TikTok said that this would be like a candidate for a good buddy first kiss song. And I was like, what? But then I read the lyrics and I was like, yes, okay, absolutely. But it's a good song.
I mean, it's definitely like kind of Bobby coded.
I feel like it's everyone coded.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a romantic if you read all the lyrics. Mm-hmm. Then the last song, which I'll be talking about again in slow burn. For those listening, I just stare directly into the camera with a dramatic pause. This song is Once in My Life by the Decemberists, which I love. I love the Decemberists in general. This is such a sweet song. And this plays with a montage at the end. end where it starts when Christopher is giving Eddie his helmet during the badge ceremony, and then it leads into the monologue, about this is what we choose this, we choose blah. So some of the lyrics of this and the vibe of this song go along really well with the monologue. It just repeats a lot. So just for once in my life, could something go right? I've been waiting all my life. That's the song. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
That sounds very in line with I've been waiting all my life for.
Yeah. And then at the end, it's I could wait for hours. I could wait and never fall down.
Interesting. We'll come back to that then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love when we get good needle drops.
Yeah.
All right. Rolling right into a red string corner.
Sure. So we have some foreshadowing within this episode for Buck getting exploded, smushed.
Exploded and smooshed.
Esplamushed, if you will.
Scooshed.
So at the very beginning of the episode, we have at the elementary school, everyone taking shelter behind the truck.
Yeah. And also with this one, Buck says to all of the kids, everyone get as close and as tight to the truck as you can be. Well, I don't think Buck can get any closer or tighter to the truck.
No one's gotten as close to a truck as him.
Multiple times. Multiple times. Yeah. And then you have the bomb squad coming in for the backpack. And that's also in Under Pressure 201.
Then they're talking at the same call. And I think it's Buck who says, isn't it packages? Isn't that his thing? Buck goes, maybe it's over. Or so maybe he changed his MO or whatever. And then Buck is like, maybe it's over. And I was like,
oh, optimistic sunshine boy.
Well, it's not over now.
Is it over now? For more foreshadowing, when we're at the call with the evil Knievel guy, Roy, and he gets stuck in his car, right? He gets stuck in the engine of his car, just kind of like Buck getting stuck under the truck. So this kind of automobile emergency, theme that we see. And then Roy is like, I'll never do another reckless thing ever. And proceeds to say, we're so back, baby. He's going to continue to do the reckless things.
Yeah, for sure.
And then at one point, while he's still stuck in the engine, he says to his wife, Maud, played by Charisma Carpenter. I'll get to that in a second. And he's like, set you on fire now. That would be a glorious blaze. And I was like, oh no, because that is what happens to Buck. And then there's also the robot that they have at Athena's house when they're removing the package from the porch and putting it into the safe box is also very much like 201, even to the blowing it up after securing it. Yeah, there are some more 201 parallels. I think that's going to be better to get into with the season wrap, so I'll save that. I did want to kind of briefly mention a parallel that I couldn't help but think about to season 1, episode 2, Let Go, which is my favorite thing to bring up. I'm so sorry. Where it's kind of our Buck's worst moments just aired out on TV, honestly, because we had with Let Go, we had the roller coaster call that ended poorly, or sadly rather, and how that whole episode was a lot about being seen, being perceived, but there was also an element of seeing it on the news, and then he was being interviewed on the news for being a hero, and then but he was this is his worst moment, and he's just being touted out on live TV for everyone to see, and then we get kind of the same thing here.
Think of another worst moment that's on TV.
Which one?
From next season.
Oh my god.
For when
and they have him with Taylor, the news is not good to him.
Oh, I wasn't. Wait, what?
No, I was just making the absolute jump from what? No, you're talking about The Well, right?
Yes, I'm talking about The Well.
Okay, and I'm just the news is not a good place for Buck. So I made that logical.
So they made him date the news.
So they made him date the news lady.
Yeah.
So that obviously wasn't going well. Okay, we're gonna have to keep that in mind when we get to 4 and 5. Anyways, so I just wanted to bring that up because I didn't even think about that other part.
How depressing.
Thanks, Rachel.
So, you're welcome. The news is not nice for Buck anytime he's on the news. Now I have one more thing, and this is very red stringy, and it's kind of apropos of absolutely nothing besides that I saw an article about it. So one of this episode's guest stars was Charisma Carpenter. She was in Buffy and then the sequel Angel, and Tim Minear also happened to work on Angel. So I think that's, just kind of like the Ryan Murphy cinematic universe. It's also kind of like the Joss Whedon cinematic universe. So he worked with Charisma Carpenter before, and apparently they were trying to get her to guest star in an earlier episode, but it got postponed. So this is an article from TV Line. This is written by Matt Webb Mitovich. It was written in August of 2018. So even before the new season aired. So this came out before season 2 premiered. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. And it's Charisma Carpenter's naughty, quote unquote, naughty 911 visit postponed by network censors. And so she was originally supposed to have a different role earlier in the season, but it got spiked by Fox's censors. And Tim Minear said, and I quote, "It was naughty. We were all set to go, and standards and practices would just not let me do it. But at the Television Critics Association press tour," so I think that happened around late July, August, Tim Minear also teased that, Charisma Carpenter, that original role that she was supposed to play was someone a woman in an emergency who finds herself stuck between a rock and a hard place and having to dial 911 when her lover collapses dead atop her.
Was it the part that he died? Because they did this in season... Oh, no, wait, they didn't. ABC did it.
Exactly. So her character was supposed to call 911 when her lover collapsed while they were doing things, right?
Yes, while they were screwing Rachel. Oh, my God. Jesus.
And he was stuck and she couldn't remove herself. So Fox's censors nixed that. And they were like, okay, well, we'll find another way for us to bring Charisma Carpenter in. But weirdly enough, there was a similar case to that storyline in CBS's Code Black. And that was given a green light, even though Fox didn't green light their own. And Tim Minear said, our version was different. But he got the green light on ABC because that happened. Basically, the same kind of situation happened with the hot tub call in 7.
They were stuck.
Yeah. What episode was it in 7?
It's 7-1.
ABC greenlit it for 701 and for Eddie to help out with that. And also Dr. Odyssey, also on ABC, had a very similar emergency too. So it's also kind of funny that they greenlit that.
There's been emergencies like this on every medical show too. This has been on.
Yeah. So
this has been on something like that has been on Grey's. And
so it's interesting and kind of weird that Fox was like, no, we can't do that, standards and practices. Fox. They don't say what episode it was supposed to be included in, but I think it's a fair guess to say it was supposed to be in Stuck, which we keep going back to. If we think about Stuck as one of the big Eddie and Shannon foreshadowing episodes.
Oh my God.
I mean,
why'd you put that in my brain?
No, it won't work very well. I'm talking about it in the terms of one of them dying.
The foreshadowing, okay. The foreshadow, because the foreshadowing started when. Yeah. Anyway,
and the male lover needing some help to perform. I said that really weirdly. So perform. Oh my God, perform. So in relation to Eddie and his performing and all of that stuff. Anyways, I just thought that was really weird, really interesting. So that's been my red string corner. Thank you.
Incredible.
Beautiful. Show stopping.
Oh, wait. One more thing, actually. So Tim also said that in season 1, he also used Sean Mayer from Firefly in a scene where a 7-foot tapeworm came out of a guy's ass. So apparently that was okay. So just how that got greenlit, and also just like Tim using people from like the Joss Whedon extended cinematic universe. So I thought that was kind of fun. And I didn't realize that actor was from Firefly either. So real interesting there. Anyways, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
60 seconds with Rachel.
Okay, 10 minutes on the clock for our themes. Starting with the most obvious one, which is the life you choose. And they go pretty much beat for beat for this for, I think, most of the characters. So you have Eddie literally saying, I chose this life for a reason when he's talking to his parents. Like, he chose the life. He chose to move him and Christopher.
I mean,
that's the life he chose.
Every character. Yeah, I think every single character, it's very upfront in the text of this episode. It's just like they are making conscious choices about the life that they want to lead.
Yeah, they have the influencer say, this is the life I chose. Right after, because I think it cuts to that scene after Eddie's scene. Then we have Henren talking about how they chose to become Denny's parents and how they're choosing to become parents again, possibly. And then we have Bobby and Athena choosing each other.
And also Athena and Harry and May choosing Bobby as well.
And we have Maddie and Chimney
choosing
each other.
Finally. And then
so that's
and then Buck,
everyone except Buck, who I don't know that he is choosing. He is choosing.
He's making conscious choices about the life that chose him.
Yes.
Which is kind of a weird way to think about it, but
yeah. And Allie is making a choice based on knowing Buck and knowing that that's the choice that he was going to make. Like, it was never a question.
Yeah.
That was like what he wanted to do. So,
and also, just like, and living with your choices, right? So sometimes you have to face the consequences of those actions. Like with Freddie, with the whole serial bombing thing, like those were choices.
Those are choices.
Yep.
But I think specifically the theme is kind of as a whole, I think is kind of tied into the first responder theme.
Yes.
Because you have to very much like choose and like be dedicated to that life.
Exactly. Kind of like, being called to your calling, or like knowing your path. So sometimes the life chooses you, sometimes you choose the life, but whichever way you're feeling, you're called to it. And we see this also with, the Begins episodes. Also relatedly, these are all kind of related, but, we've seen throughout the season a lot of the, when it's your emergency sort of thing. So it's not just necessarily, the first responders helping random civilians, but when the responders have like a family member or a colleague or, part of their family that is in peril, when it's your emergency. And then kind of in that same vein, also very much like we've seen throughout the season, kind of helping the helpers. So when the first responders need help, either by other first responders or by the public, that kind of support, that community. And this episode is a lot about community because it's choosing your family, right? So it's not the family you're born with, but the family you choose to surround yourself with. It's your community. So, and I don't even know if we want to say like revenge, because so like revenge was brought up a couple times in this episode. We see it most really with Freddie making the decision to inflict revenge or to seek his revenge about his father by doing all of these bad things. I think Maud, the Charisma Carpenter's character,
It's the only other one I can think of.
Was like taking out like the car was taking out revenge on Roy. Yeah, I was trying to think of any others. I mean, it's Freddy's like serial bombing because he is enacting revenge on all of those people that were involved in his dad's case as well. Maybe it was the little girl taking revenge on her parents for packing her tuna fish sandwich. I don't know.
No.
Which like I would think would be fair. I don't really think so, but I thought that was funny. Yeah, I don't know what else, but I think if it's brought up more than once, I think it's something. But I don't really know how else to connect it at the moment. So I think any other themes that are in this episode are really just kind of like more culminating the season themes, and we'll talk about those in the wrap, because I think that would be more pertinent there. It's like, you know, encompassing the wide scale. So shall we see who's cooking in the kitchen?
Okay. So because everyone kind of gets their own little moment, we are going to cover everyone, but we're going to be spending like substantially less time on like Hen, Karen, Chimney, and Maddie, because it wasn't really like big character arc centric. It was just kind of like some updates for like their family or their coupledom that we want to touch on.
Not to say that they were like tertiary to the story, but like it just wasn't as big of the focus.
Exactly. So let's start with Hen and Karen.
We only really get like one scene with them, and it's kind of following up a little bit from Ocean's 911, which was episode 15, right? Because that's when we learned about Karen having lost her job, and that would have been, you know, like their motivation for Hen to do the heist. But we know that wasn't the case. So yeah, the first time I watched it, I was like, wait, why does Karen need a new job? But I forgot. It was a couple episodes ago. And they're talking about Karen's job search and discussing expanding their family. So yeah, they're trying to make the right decisions for their family by considering the options of expanding, right? And being interested in having more children. And I thought it was so lovely because you know, they reminisce on how there's never a day when they regret specifically choosing to be Denny's moms, because it is something that you have to like actively choose, and you know, the way for them to expand their family, it can't just be an oops accident. Like you have to make the conscious like, because it doesn't work that way.
And it was a hard decision because of the relation to his bio mom.
And that was a hard decision. So
I like how this paralleled in a much better way a similar playground scene in season 1 that they have.
Yeah.
So instead of, you know, a very tense conversation about
with Eva showing up.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that one. I was thinking about when it was just Hen and Karen at the playground. And
right. That was
Hen was telling Karen about.
Was that from Point of Origin?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
It was early on in season 1. But yeah, so I thought it was nice to like see them have a conversation that was like not super tense. I thought that it was a good way to tie in that theme of the life we choose for both of them, not just because of the Denny of it all, but because when Karen's talking about, oh, it'll be nice, like I'll be able to spend more time with Denny, like it'd be great if you could do that, like if you could like work from home, or you could spend more, like, you know what I mean? And and was like,
I love this.
The day I work from home is like the house will be on fire. Is, you know, she's trying to be ironic on purpose. So it just goes to show that like she has to be out there doing things. Like if she wasn't going to do this, she was going to become a doctor. Like, so
which is still out there doing things.
She needs to be out there doing things, and that's just
I
the
guess,
life that she chooses, but it also chooses her.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think we see that like in dual ways with. She chose this life, you know, because she chose to go into like something with medical, and we hear that after Dosed, like her interview with Taylor about how she was shot when she was a kid, and it was the paramedics that kept her alive. But then we also see it with Hen Begins, how the life also kind of actually chose her as well, because that's what she felt called to do. So I think that was a nice tie together. So with Chimney and Maddie, we kind of see them. I don't even know how to start this.
Well, I want to talk about Chimney by himself really quick, because I did just want to talk about, because we did cover in the previous episode talking about him as a captain.
Right.
And how he kind of struggled with like finding his own sort of stride with that. And I think you really get to see in this episode that he finally has like found that, and he's doing a really good job with the team. And and everyone is, like everything's copacetic now. Mm-hmm. And I really think
like Eddie even calls him Cap.
Yes.
And I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah. So I think this is all really like shown really well, like in the very stressful call of the ladder truck explosion. Mm-hmm. Not only is that like the most like, I don't want to say extenuating circumstances. It's just like
it kind of is.
It is, but you know what I mean? Like it's that, like, yes, like Allie says, like that's every day of your life. It's not. That's not what happens every single day for them, right?
Yeah.
But so that's like a really crazy thing to happen, but that it happened to them specifically. So mm-hmm. It's one of your own. So not only for like this exceptional thing to happen, but for the person who's injured to be one of his own, to be his pseudo little brother.
Yeah, brother.
Like that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure for him to be under, mm-hmm. especially because of how he already lost another pseudo little brother. So I just feel like you can see how he did such a good job and like keeping calm and like trying to still perform his duties. And like him offering himself up just like them Bobby did. I was like, oh look, it's the captains.
Yeah,
murdering themselves. Yeah.
I was going to say something to that effect too, because like, even though it seems like Chimney has really found his own footing in, being intern Captain Han, where he's trusting his team and he's trusting himself, for him to still kind of do that same action that Bobby does. So in his head, it's like what would Bobby do? Still, but like in a way that is productive and effective and allows Chimney to step up to mm-hmm. the task of being captain in such a, grossly extenuating circumstance, because this isn't what he signed up for. Exactly. That's not what any of them signed up for, really. But to see him kind of like so bravely taking charge of, or trying to take charge of the situation. And even you can tell he's scared, but I think it just speaks to how, willing he was to put himself in that role like that now. Growth. So we kind of saw more of Maddie's like season arc come to a close in the last episode. So what we see of Maddie is either in relation to Buck, or mm-hmm. it's Maddie and Chimney kind of as a unit, and them choosing to start things new. Like this is their real new beginnings, right? And Maddie goes kind of in a parallel to when she asked Chimney out in, what was it? New Beginnings in episode 11, and gave him, like, said that she was divorcing Doug and everything, and can they go out and stuff like that. So this is a parallel to that, where she comes to the station again and she says, you once said that things will never be the same and we can never get back what we could have had. But then she's like, but maybe we could have something else. So I think this is also them choosing to, having had reflected on, the things that had happened in the past, especially for Maddie, the trauma of her past, and being like, mm-hmm. okay, I am choosing to move forward in this new life because I am no longer scared. So we can go down this path together, not scared.
Yeah.
And happy.
Yeah. And we get to see a very sweet kiss.
That's not on a hospital
That's not a goodbye
bed.
and not on a hospital. Yeah.
Which it's what they deserve.
Yeah. It's like fucking finally they got together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
For now.
Well, you didn't have to listen. We're celebrating a win.
We are.
Yeah.
A win's a win.
A win is a win. Yeah, I do also really appreciate that they didn't like super draw it out like a will they won't they like so many shows do.
We already have one of those.
Mm-hmm. And it's because Maddie and Chimney are the rom-com couple, so they have to like, you know, the happy ending at the end of the movie, which is the season. But from all of the turmoil, they come out better on the other side because they have each other.
Yes.
And they're able to like choose to do it together.
Are we ready to talk about Bobby and Athena?
Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad? Literally now. Okay, I think the mostly what I have to say about this other than the wedding at the end is just kind of like in relation to the ongoing like bombing case.
Mm-hmm.
So it obviously becomes very personal for Athena because a package is sent to her home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really just showing how much of each other's person they are that Bobby shortly shows up afterwards as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of crack it together finally. But
it's that teamwork, team detective work that we saw in Bobby Begins Again with that original Guillermo's case. Like they work so well together.
Unfortunately, a little too late.
Yeah.
Because they figure out, oh, Bobby is connected to this too. Mm-hmm. Oh, they searched Bobby's home. They checked the wrong house.
Yes.
Because if he was trying to hurt Bobby, he knows that like Bobby's got no one there, and he knows he knows his firehouse.
Mm-hmm.
If he's like
that would make the most damage.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
I'm sure if he stalked these other people enough to like know shit about their personal lives, then he knows a little bit about Bobby and knew that like doing this there would hurt him the most. So, you know, like physically and mentally, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I feel like this was worse because he wasn't even in that truck and he's probably wishing that he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, gosh, like all of the kind of like dominoes that had to be laid out for Bobby to not be on that truck is kind of really interesting if you take a step back and look at it because of the Ocean's 911 episode with the bank heist, and then that prompted the investigative hearing, and that prompted him to be suspended. So because
well, and we get this whole story of Freddie and what happened with his family in Bobby Begins Again, which we only got because it's Bobby's flashback retelling, like in the hearing.
From a narrative standpoint, I was talking about like in the events for the character sort of thing, like if Ocean's 911, because like Bobby Begins Again happened chronologically long before that. So like,
but I think that's the only reason it came up into his mind is that it was recent.
Yes.
That he had to rethink it. Yes.
Why he was like, wait, I do remember this.
Yeah. Because he had literally just talked about it.
And I guess we'll continue with the Freddie and the engine and everything like that. And the way that Bobby, who at this juncture is essentially a civilian and against all advice, like does kind of like Roy said, the reckless thing, like I'll continue to do reckless things, and kind of like father, like son, meaning Buck, Bobby just like walks right into kind of the lion's den of this, what should be a negotiation situation, right? Because you've got an active threat around people and other civilians, and And Bobby's just like leans over to Athena and says, love you. And he makes the choice to try to help stop this or try to get through to Freddie. Right. And he doesn't really, the way he talks to Freddie also, he doesn't like mince words. He's not trying to like, it's all going to be okay. It's going to be fine, because that's what he did the first time. And this is kind of,
well, he was a kid and now this is an adult hurting people
and has made conscious decisions on his own, just like Freddie's father did. So Bobby's like, you know, you stopped being a victim the moment that you sent that first bomb. It was so it really was like Freddie's conscious choice. And they talk about like collateral damage and Freddie just like not understanding or just like misunderstanding that his family was ruined, but he thinks it's at the fault of everyone related to his dad's case and not his dad making a bad decision like Freddie is making a bad decision. And then like Bobby does the craziest thing where he kind of like signals for them to bring Freddie's mom over, and Bobby gets behind him. So like they're planning this out and he's communicating like kind of through body language and like eyes with detective, I forget his name. And Athena. The detective there and Athena bringing Freddie's mom in. And then Bobby just kind of like scoots around behind Freddie and then like wrestles the trigger off of him, which is probably the most reckless thing that one could do. Because it's a dead
Very
man.
quick what if.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Bobby would have done all of that if Buck wasn't under the truck?
Yes.
I think yes. I don't know. I just feel like that's who he is.
I think yes, but I don't think it would have been necessarily as dire of a situation for Bobby to get this away from, because it was attacking his house.
Yes.
Right. That is still his family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he still would have done it, but maybe would have tried to get the bomb squad to wrestle the trigger out of his hand.
That's what I mean.
As opposed to, okay. Because
it's like, not only did he immediately, no second thoughts, throw himself out there.
Well, that's what I think he would have done that either way. I'm not sure he would have like wrestled behind him if it wasn't for talking about specifically collateral damage and Buck being collateral damage.
I also feel like because he is, not only because of who he is, but also because like he is the captain at that point, you know, like just like his title alone kind of defines like what he would probably do, you know, kind of like when you think about captains of ships, they go down with that ship, you know.
They go down with
they're the last person. They got to make sure everyone else is okay, type of thing.
Because even though he's technically suspended, he still is like very much the captain of the family, the 118 family. So he would have done that. I think he would have put himself in harm's way like that. I don't know if he would have been the one to disarm Freddie if it were not for Buck being called collateral damage. If that makes sense. And then I think we should talk about Bobby and Athena together, because this episode is all about them choosing each other, right?
You mean their wedding?
Yeah. And I mean, well, yeah, and they talk about, well, Athena talks to Harry and May about the wedding, because Harry seems kind of reticent about it, but it's mostly because he doesn't want to wear tux, which is fair. But how, you know, the joining of their family is as much, you know, Bobby choosing them as it is about them choosing Bobby collectively together. So like as a team. And I mean, there's also like Bobby getting reinstated as captain where he's supposed to be, and during Eddie's shield ceremony, and talking about, so I think it's after or during the Eddie's shield ceremony that Bobby kind of gets this idea of, let's go to the courthouse and get married like right now, right? Because he's kind of being invigorated by seeing the family that has chosen to come together in this way for each other, for Eddie. And so it's like everyone's there, but who's missing? Athena's not there. And I think that kind of just like really the events that had just transpired with the engine and Freddie, and seeing this ceremony take place. I think it really, because there's a shot of him just kind of like taking this all in, right? And I think that's what inspires him to say, like, yeah, life is short. Let's go do this right now.
Well, I also think the fact that he just, during the ladder truck explosion, how he kind of he throws himself in without like any discussion with her. He just decides to go do that. I mean, it doesn't really affect his choice, but I just think it's funny how Athena was like in shock, like, yeah, you're also like, and then when all of that is over, when all of the chaos is kind of done, like she goes up to him, they exchange their I love yous. Well, he says I love you first, when he's doing his self-sacrificing thing, and then she's like, you're a fool, and then she like kisses him and she's like, I love you too. And I mean, like, I feel like that event, like that whole like the life's too short type of thing, that also kind of, so like not only seeing like the family showing up at the firehouse for like Eddie's ceremony, I also think like that event also kind of just emboldened him to say, hey, you know what, let's do it now, because all we have everything we need, and all we know, all that we're sure about is about today. Because he does ask her, he like goes up to her, he's like, what are you doing today? Oh, really? Laundry? Let's just get married. Let's just get this done, because
much better than laundry.
Yeah, because today is all day no.
I think that, and I think there's also an aspect of that when Bobby kisses her on the cheek and goes into like the center to get to Freddie, and when she reaches him afterwards and is like, yeah, I love you too, like that, you're a fool. I think there's also like a level of acceptance there that Bobby feels, because Athena doesn't question him. She knows who he is. She sees him for who he is, and she knows that he had to do it. Yeah. And she doesn't question him about it, like, or try to keep him back when he's already made that decision to go forward like that, even though she was probably like, wait, what? But there was no like, no, don't do it. It's too dangerous for you. She understands, because she's also in the life. So I think there's just like a level of acceptance with like between both of them, that it's just like, I know who you are. I choose to love you for who you are. And I know that you had to do that.
For who he is, and like what he chooses to do. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I feel like it could be said that you can love someone but not be able to bear or like support them when they choose to do something like this is going to put them in danger.
Yeah.
That you can't handle it. But like, because they understand, because they're both first responders, that's something that they're able, even when they are like worried about each other and are like, I wish you wouldn't do that. It's just like, think about this season. He's like, of course she is. Like, of course she is flying the plane.
Like I knew you'd have to do it. Like I had to do it. I know you did. And I think we can get into it later, but I think this is kind of like the antithesis to Allie and Buck, where Allie also understands, but she chooses to not like be part of that, because she didn't choose that life.
Because she didn't choose that life.
But Athena has chosen it for herself, but she also chooses it because of Bobby and because of who he is, and she understands. Like I think they both Athena and Allie understand, but their decisions are different. So I think that's like the opposite there. So we see that parallel. And it's really cute, and they get to go to the courthouse and get married, and like Athena already has her dress, and it's like amazing. And it's just like a really lovely moment of the family that they've created together. Although I do have a bone to pick, because we've had a courthouse wedding. We've had a hospital wedding. We need some like pomp and circumstance for someone. I mean, and then we had the background.
You have the money to make like a real looking wedding. You've done it several times on Grey's Anatomy.
And I mean, we did get like Hen and Karen's really lovely renewal, but that was a vow renewal. That wasn't like the initial, but that was because they didn't have a big fancy wedding. And I think we need a a fun, fancy, emergency-free wedding.
Just saying, when Buddie gets married, I need a real wedding.
Like, that's like the final episode of 911.
Listen, stuff has got to happen there. It can be funny, but not like someone's dying.
Not like encephalitis.
Viral encephalitis. Thank you. No hospitals.
No hospitals. You can make it funny and have it be raining.
You could, if you need to do a hospital, make them break an arm or like break something, and then they show up like walking down the aisle with like, you could do that.
That's fine.
But like
nothing that requires them for bed rest. That's all. Because it's lovely that like the weddings that we see in 911 are just kind of like low key or like a redo for something, but like there's been too many where it's just been kind of like, okay, we're just kind of like under the radar sort of thing, or a redo for something that was under the radar, and it's just like,
that's what I'm saying. Buck and Eddie are our last shot.
Come on.
They're our last chance.
You're my last hope, Obi-Wan.
Final
just
line
like us
defense.
Us to like Tim Minear, you're our last hope.
Oh my god.
No, not to Tim Minear. That's to Oliver.
We are gathered here today to talk about, for the first time in the series, but not the first time that we've talked about it for sure, how the Diaz parents can get wrecked.
Oh, indeed. I was like, where are you going with this? Like, I'm pretty sure we talked about it.
I knew she was going to say something about them, but I was like, how is she? What angle was she going to go for?
Yeah. So,
But anyways,
we're going to have so much more to say about this in season 2 wrap. But.
Yeah.
In the vein of Eddie choosing this life in LA, right? We get to see kind of like the aftermath of Shannon's funeral, and his family's come in. So this is us meeting them for the first time, technically, right? I don't think we've met.
I had
Helena
that question.
or Ramon.
No, I don't think this is the first.
No, we haven't. I mean, sorry, I just dissociated for a second because I was like, wait, if Shannon's mom is in LA, and then my eyes started twitching.
We never see anything about Shannon's life in LA.
No, but if she had to move to LA for her mom and her mom's in LA, then that would hold with the Tim saying that they used to live in LA and moved to El Paso. That's why my eyes started twitching.
I thought that was just in relation to Eddie.
Huh? What was in relation to Eddie?
I don't know. Just seems like a coinkydink.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have to think about that when I have more brain cells.
I'm so sorry.
Because also, like, is Shannon's mom even still alive?
I'm assuming she's not.
I'm assuming no.
So then the people that had to put her funeral on are her almost ex-husband and her in-laws who hated her guts.
Which, I don't care how much you hate someone, unless they're an actual Nazi. Why are you showing up at their like wake?
Yeah,
talking smack about them like that to their significant other.
Mm-hmm.
What are we?
Okay.
What?
Okay, wait. So I had some things to say about this. So we see, in like Eddie's backyard, and they're after the funeral, and he's talking to his parents, and Ramon kind of takes a shot at Shannon because Eddie, they were saying like, what was it, like Eddie was brave and Christopher was brave, and Christopher was brave at the funeral.
Brave, Eddie is brave, just like his father.
Yeah,
and he said his mother was brave too.
Yeah, Eddie says that Shannon was brave too, and that incites some hostility from Ramon, and that just like kind of sets everything off. So eventually through this conversation, Eddie realizes they didn't come for the funeral. They came to bring Eddie and Christopher back to Texas. So this was not a funeral. He
outright accuses them of that. He outright is like, oh, that's what.
Yes, because that's what this was. This was an organized intervention by his parents rather than a celebration of life. Right.
Yeah. Like what his mom starts saying seems rehearsed because like, and then Ramon's sitting there like with his hands like this, like.
Well, wait, because when after Ramon takes that shot at Shannon and Helena looks at him like this kind of look that's kind of like, we talked about this, like, don't go getting like putting the cart before the horse sort of thing, because this is an intervention. And I think that she gave him that look because she was like, don't jeopardize our chances here, because that put Eddie on the defensive.
How are we supposed to manipulate him if we make him angry first?
Yeah, because then Ramon put Eddie on the defensive, and there's just like all of this talking about like, well, your life is in Texas and Christopher's life is in Texas, and it's like, well, no, Christopher's life and Eddie's life is in LA because this is where Eddie chose, and he's not going to uproot Christopher again. And also, like, you say that's where family is, but like, hello, Aunt Peppa and Abuela are right there. That's literally like Ramon's mother and sister. Like, just they're totally like disregarding Abuela and Peppa, and like Peppa takes affront to that, because it is very insulting saying like the immediate family is the family that is supposed to be around and helping you. But Eddie has gotten more help from the family that he chose at the 118 than he ever got in El Paso with his parents, because his parents don't believe in him. But again, we're not quite there yet, but
his parents want to raise Christopher and control him. That's what they want.
So like, even in this first interaction that we see with Eddie and his parents, it really shows like why he had to make the decision to leave Texas and uproot Christopher from the only home he's ever known, according to them.
I would have fled the state too.
And start life anew. Their new beginnings.
He's 7. He has barely any time of like memories.
Right? And it's still around family. And it's around family that they've created with the 118 because
the whole village.
Because of Buck, because of Bobby, because of everybody taking Christopher under their wing. So that's where Eddie feels like his true family really lies.
Well, yeah, and because they don't just support Christopher, they support him too.
Mm-hmm.
They care about Eddie too.
Yeah, because they see him. And, you know, the conversation continues like, Eddie's like, do you want me to throw away the last year of my life? Because it didn't, in their eyes, it didn't work out. It didn't pan out. Meanwhile, he is actually being like very successful, almost done with his probationary year as a firefighter. And he's about to earn his shield, and he doesn't want to start. So by asking or imploring, really, Eddie to take Christopher back to Texas, Eddie's like, he doesn't want to uproot Christopher. He also doesn't want to uproot himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Christopher takes priority, but for them to ask Eddie to, you know, just stop before he's earned his shield, Ramon says you could join a firehouse in Texas. It's like, well, he can't because he doesn't have a shield yet. So he'd have to start all the way over. That would be uprooting Eddie so much, but it would also be uprooting Christopher. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit in Slow Burn, but Ramon says to Eddie, you know, you can choose another life. Or Eddie says like,
you could choose a different life.
Yeah. Eddie says, this is the life I chose. And Ramon is like, you can choose another one. Like, it's so easy like that. But it's like
he moved there not for Shannon.
They're disregarding the choice that Eddie did make to go to LA in the first place. It's like, well, you can choose another life. He already did that. He chose another life from the one that he was so unhappy with, El Paso. I mean, besides grieving, they were kind of thriving for a bit there in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So why would they, you know, one setback and they're gonna, you know, his parents are trying to get them to run back home. It's like, no, Eddie and Christopher are so much more resilient than that I think than his parents give either of them credit for. So just like the emphasis on Eddie choosing to go to LA in the first place and then choosing to make the 118 his family. And it doesn't get more like rude and disregarding of one's autonomy than what his parents are doing.
It's really hard to like kind of talk about this without talking about, I know we can do whatever we want at this point, but like it's kind of hard to talk about this without like thinking about 316
added context.
Yeah, with all that added context that we have. And at face value, which still holds true with all of our opinions. I mean, that was, Eddie's parents just going over there, already talking shit about Shannon, trying to convince or manipulate Eddie to move back to Texas. Like, that is just and then saying that Christopher needs to be with his family, basically just the direct family. That's whole ass disrespectful.
So much.
Whole ass disrespectful, especially not only just to Eddie, I mean, even to rest in peace, Pepe and Abuela, not only to the people who are alive, but also to Shannon. Like, I don't know. I don't know who they think they are.
People with bigger roles in Eddie and Christopher's life than they actually have, I think. So it's so like this scene, even the first watch through, like before we got to season 3 and stuff like that, it was infuriating. No.
Yes.
And it's just about them. They do not give they don't give a shit. It's the wording. It's the first 6 years of his life were with us. Not like all of our family in El Paso, not like his whole family back in El Paso. It's us, meaning the two of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, it's just it's insane. It's insane that Eddie even has to say what's best for Christopher is like being with me. Like, I'm his father. What?
That should be a given.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. It's just crazy.
They
are
the worst. They are pieces of work. Like, oh my God. I don't know how you can really like sympathize with these characters.
No, and it's not even like, oh, hey, how are you? Like, it's not even like a, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You just
for real
just buried your wife yesterday.
Yeah. No, it's, hey, so anyway, we're here because we'd like to uproot you and your son so you guys can be with us.
Literally.
Not even some time to process.
Not even you guys. It's where the first 6 years of his, it's Christopher. Sorry, continue.
Anyway, I also want to know, like, because, Peppa stands on business, like, so I just want to know,
we
like,
love her.
Yes, we do. Because she's the only one who, like, stands up to Ramon and, like, lays it out.
And supports Eddie. I mean, she also speaks for Isabella.
Yeah.
But like,
well, also,
no wonder he chose them.
That's their mom.
That's their mom. Can you imagine saying that in front of your mother
and your sister?
No, it's the sister.
No, it's
sister,
the
whatever.
Sister's fine.
The mama?
In a Hispanic.
No, really. How did he not get like?
I don't know.
slapped?
I don't know how Isabella didn't get didn't get her chancla and hit him in the face.
Should have. He would have deserved it.
Isabella was. I mean, not Isabella. Peppa was ready.
That's like, but also that's so much disrespect, like for Ramon and Helena to have to Isabel and Peppa. Like, that is also blood family, or like for Helena, it's in-laws, but close enough at this point. But like for Ramon, it's so disrespectful because it's also just like completely disregarding any of their importance in Eddie's life and Christopher's life, but also it disregards their importance in Ramon's life. And I'm guessing Sophia and Adriana, who we don't know actually like exist right now, but and it's just like, no wonder they stayed or they moved, whatever we want to call it, to LA, because they probably wanted to get away from them too. if they're being treated with this kind of disrespect.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
How much you want to bet it's all Helena anyway? Or like my daughter-in-law is really something else. I mean, that's what usually happens. I mean,
okay, honestly, but he's made the choices to support all of the stuff that she's not only like done and said, but he says his own shit that's terrible too.
Yeah.
So he may be following her lead, but it's not like it's blindly.
I think there's something to be said about like having your significant others back, but like at the cost of your
child.
No.
Come on. No. Oh.
Anyway, but we do know who wears the pants in that relationship. Let's be real.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
going to have to do a whole episode about them.
Mini-sode.
So,
We're going to have to. It's going to be like largely like extrapolated, but like, I mean, when I'm like, oh, your child, it's like, because they were never really parents, but that's a different conversation.
mm-hmm.
So I did just want to point out that at the point when like everyone's back at the 118 after the Bucksplosion.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Bucksplosion. That they have that whole interaction where Bobby's finally back, and Hen says specifically, and I'll talk about this again in slow burn, but Hen says things are finally getting back to the way they should be because Cap's back, right? And it feels like, oh, we're getting the team back together finally, like, and ever like people are where they're supposed to be in this like hierarchy of the family. And like she can have her partner back, and you know, that's how she's thinking. But Eddie's the only one who points out or draws attention to the fact that no, things are not normal, that their family there is not complete. Because he says almost with a look on his face. So
A look TM.
yes.
Yes, we will talk about that look. I would also like to talk about like the blocking of that. Basically everything I have to say about that scene. I'm going to save it for slow burn. And then we finally get to Eddie's shield ceremony, where everybody is there to support him, even his parents, which is nice. But more importantly, the rest of the 118.
I think it was just because they were already there.
Yeah. I mean, they did seem supportive. Like Helena was like, woo. But it's like, how genuine was that?
How else are they gonna act?
I know. I'm just kind of surprised in general that like they came. Like Eddie invited them.
I don't think they're not supportive of him being a firefighter.
Yeah,
they just don't want him to do it.
Well, I think that's an important distinction, though. I think you're right. They are supportive of him being a firefighter because that's honorable, just like he was a soldier. Sure. And I think they supported him being a soldier, which again
also gives them a reason to point out why Christopher needs them, because his hours are crazy.
But what I was trying to say is I think they support him in his honorable choices, but they do not support him as a father. And those are different things in their worlds. I can't get into that right now. But and then, you know, Bobby gives that speech about choosing this life, which I think really emphasizes how much like Eddie did choose this life, because he could have had also at the beginning of the season, he could have had his pick because of any of the fire stations, because he was at the top of his class, but he chose the 118. It's a lovely ceremony, and we see everybody is so happy for him, and Christopher's there in basically like his second home because he's been so welcomed by everybody at the 118. And it's this really lovely moment where he presents his dad with his helmet, and everyone's just like looking on with just like love and happiness, and Buck's so cute in the back. He's like, oh my God. It was just like a really great visual moment to kind of culminate for Eddie and emphasize the, you know, the episode theme of choosing like the life that we chose. And yes, it's very heavy handed. It's a finale. It has to be. But sorry, do we have anything else?
And I think like everything else is gay. So
yeah, there's a lot. Love that for us. Cool.
Okay.
Are we ready for...
Are you ready to...
explode?
Explode. I'm trying really hard not to say
I was
that.
trying to see like how these people were seated. Like, is Eddie's parents in the front?
They're kind of in the back.
Right?
On the side.
Yeah,
they're like on the side. Yeah, because the people in the front and taking up like the center of the tables, it's like Hen and Karen. And I think on the other table is Buck with Maddie and Chimney. Those are the front. I don't know if Peppa and Abuela are at the same table as Helena and Ramon, but I think it's the table behind Buck's table, which is also interesting.
Yeah. That's a weird seating chart, but okay.
Right? You would think.
Why are Christopher and... That's a weird seating chart.
Yeah.
Did they get into a fight after that comment? They were like, I can't sit with you.
Our Tia Peppa and and Abuela on like the other table.
With Christopher, I think.
Oh, that is interesting too. It really is like that separation.
Yeah.
Then
like those people are guests. So like that's like because then that would be like the second table on the like if I'm Eddie facing, so it would be the second table on the left, and then the other ones are either on the second table or third table on the right.
Yeah, but not in the direct front. So it really visually, I guess, kind of like what Tim was saying in one of those articles where like the bifurcated, it really shows that separation of the family who are guests in his home, you could say.
Yeah.
And the family that is here in LA.
Yeah, family that needs to call to make plans with you. And then the family that can just show up at your door. Yeah.
Good call.
Interesting.
That is interesting. I didn't pick up on that.
Buckaroo, buckaroo.
Oh, sweet. Sweet buck.
All right, let's go.
Okay, this man.
That's a great start.
This man goes through the emotional gambit in this episode because when we see him like on his own at the, like looking at the loft and like we see him in Allie, like he looks so happy. Like I think this is the happiest we ever see him in a relationship, actually.
Well, it's definitely, I think, like some of the happiest he's been all season.
Well, yeah.
Because half of that was like, you know, wringing his hands over Abby, and then the other.
But we never saw him like this with Abby, and I don't think we really see him like this. Like the like nice, like they're kind of just like sweet and cute together. Like they have this nice little banter. And yeah, sure, the honeymoon phase, but I just think that.
Yeah, but the banter's good. They've got good banter.
They do.
They've got good like chemistry together.
Yes, exactly. So he seems really happy. They kind of do a bait and switch here where you kind of think they're like getting a place together, which I could be the omen of a trend we see in the future.
I know. Listen, there's the exception to every rule, right?
Yeah.
She's the exception, I think, to most.
The one who helped him pick it out doesn't get asked. Yeah. So, but yeah, so this is where the loft that we all wish would go away
comes to be.
Loft begins.
Oh, loft.
Buck's loft begins.
Our love and hate relationship. Objectively, it's a great place.
Objectively,
looks
great.
Yeah.
Super fun.
I really want to know what the actual price tag on this loft is, what it would be.
I think someone has looked this up, like the building that it's supposed to be.
What is it?
I'll have to find it. I think I saw it in a Tumblr post, and it's expensive.
Trust fund, baby.
She's like, the real estate agent is like, it's got this and this and that. And you can't put that view, you can't put a price on it. And he's like, yeah, but you did. You did.
Being a little sly about that. And yeah, so they do the bait and switch where the real estate agent is like under the impression that they're picking out a place to move in together. And they're kind of like, no, it's my first place all on my own sort of thing. So we see Buck finally like ready to, you know, move into his own place, a place of his own, like ownership and choosing, you know, an actual place instead of just kind of like bumming it on Maddie's couch. And before that, it was Chimney's couch. And before that, it was Abby's couch and or bed.
Gonna argue that he didn't necessarily choose this, though. This particular loft.
I think
because I feel like Allie's opinion had something to do with it.
A big factor to play. Yeah. I think he did like it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think he would have said yes if he didn't like it. So I think there is an element of his choosing in there, but he didn't choose it completely on his own. He had help. But there is a choice there, you know, because he could say like, no, let's keep looking. But I understand where you're coming from with that. So just kind of like a nice way for him to bookend the season of him, you know, squatting in Abby's place to, well, kind of squatting as a roommate in his own, which that kind of means that things haven't changed that much. But which is really sad.
I mean, it's an upgrade because instead of getting ghosted, he actually got broken up with face to face. So
yeah, it's
progress.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the loft that isn't the breakup.
The scene is simultaneously cute and simultaneously what the fuck for several reasons. One of them is, why are you making out in front of your real estate agent?
Because they're in the honeymoon phase and they don't get to see each other a lot. So it's like,
it's just like, wait until your 20-minute appointment with the real estate agent is over. That's just, I don't know. That's so weird to me.
I don't know.
Well, if they're
Maybe
signing papers, that was not going to be 20 minutes.
Maybe it was a strategy to get like the real estate agent to like, I don't know, be nicer to them.
And give them a little bit of a discount.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look how cute we are.
Yeah.
Look how cute we are. Aren't we a great asset to this building? Like,
yeah, and potentially she'll move in with me, and then
I'm a civil servant. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't
feel
know.
bad for us because we don't get to see each other.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was more of a narrative device to bring Allie, like having them be all over each other and like while they're touring this apartment was a little bit more like because we haven't seen their relationship.
Well, I get that, Rachel. I'm just saying as if they were two real people, because we're talking about them as if they're real. This is their character arcs and their choices. I was just saying that's weird. It wasn't that deep. I was just saying it was weird.
Yeah. Okay.
That level of PDA in front of a stranger who is like you're supposed to be doing a professional thing with. That's all. Moving on.
Bucko boom.
Yeah.
They're leaving the station to go on a call, and Buck is ready to go help someone, but then he ends up being the person who needs help, which is like his least favorite thing in the world, probably.
Yeah, because he does not want to ask for help if he does not have to. And he also wants, like, yeah. So the one time he's in the captain's chair.
Oh, he's never sitting in that thing again.
I was going to say it's cursed now.
It absolutely
if he ever
is.
becomes captain, he's going to constantly make other people sit.
It's going to be like, I'm going to sit in the back.
Like, I'm sorry, trauma. I can direct from the back seat. It's fine.
Yeah, his superstitious ass.
No, really. Never again.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because that is the only time that he's in the captain's seat because, and I don't know why they were like broken up this way other than like the plot dictated it was necessary. But Eddie and Hen and Chimney are in the other engine. And I looked and I double checked. They're not in the ambulance. They're in the other engine because I think Chimney is in the captain's seat of the other engine because there are two and an ambulance. So
they said, Buck, you go be with the people who don't have speaking lines.
I don't think we even see their faces.
No, because they're face down.
No, I know. I feel
on the cold hard ground.
I feel so bad for the silent members of the 118, right? Like they just have to endure all this stuff.
It's a spinoff. The silent members.
Yeah,
they need their own union. Let's be real.
I would love, like, I know we talk about all of these, like,
oh my god, the liaison is Robbie. Because he's like not there sometimes and then he is there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, I think we I mean, like, as a fandom, we've talked about like different bottle episodes they could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a really funny one would be like the outside point of view of like not even like Ravi, but like completely from the point of view of the people that never get to talk.
Yes. Like I know we've met
but just them watching the other ones, like, did you hear what
there is a fantastic fic. It's called the Bunk Room fic. Find it so we can link it, which is basically that.
Yeah.
It's a third-party perspective bottle episode of like, you know, just different moments in the bunk room of the 118 as seen through the eyes of the other members of the 118.
The silent members.
Yeah. And the author does a really good job because they make these characters who like we have some names for them in canon. I think like Julie Rosen is one, Jonesy. There's a couple other. This author kind of makes them into their own characters and it's really cute and very well done. So if you want to read it, we'll have that available, linked somewhere.
Yeah, so I mean, there's not a lot to talk about with him at the actual scene of this crime because he's He's just in agony. And like Oliver Stark does agony really well. Just one of the reasons I'm sure Tim Minear keeps writing agony for Buck.
I want to know if he lost his voice because like those like screams in pain as
the guttural ones.
As they're trying to lift up the truck. And it's just like, that's some of the most believable screams I've ever heard. Like, just really good.
It's painful.
Yeah, it is painful because it sounds so authentic. And like, I know logically, like, Oliver Stark was not crushed by an engine, but it really feels like he's felt that kind of pain before. Or like something to tap into like that kind of like guttural, agonizing pain. I hope nothing like that has ever happened. But like, nothing. Which would make it even more impressive if it hasn't.
We'll never know.
Hopefully. Sure won't.
Like maybe it's like maybe somewhere in his filmography. Somewhere else. I don't know. So he's practiced that.
It is tough for Buck because he can't do anything and he has to rely on his family to help him. But even they can't, get him out from underneath this truck. So the 118 has to then rely on bystanders in the middle of the street, just like rushing past the barricades and just being good Samaritans and giving back to their community and the first responders who help them. So that's always a really lovely scene. I do get goosebumps every time I watch it.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about like a group of people coming together in that kind of way to like do something. It's a little different than like going to a sports game and everybody doing the wave, but it's similar.
It's not a stretch because it's the same vein, but it's kind of giving the portal scene.
Oh yes, which also gives me goosebumps.
She has help.
Yeah.
So everyone coming together to fight or in this case to help. Very emotional.
So collective effervescence is the concept that describes the feeling of unity that people experience when they come together for a shared purpose or a shared experience. So like people going to a concert and sharing that experience of that concert, people at like a sports game and they're doing the wave, people collectively deciding to go past the barriers and help out the first responders. That's what gives me the goosebumps. It's that collective effervescence never fails, which is the same thing as like the portals scene as well. In Endgame, it is one of my favorite things in the world. Anyways, shocking. I know.
Shocking revelations.
I know, but I like that is my favorite. That is my favorite feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not about me. We're about Buck.
We're about Buck.
Yeah. So
except for when we're about Eddie.
Yeah.
But usually those are related. So
it's true.
So yeah, it's just like everybody coming together as a team for Buck, which is such a beautiful thing because there's that kind of throughout the episode, he's looking for an apartment to be on his own. And then when Maddie is seeing this transpire at dispatch and she's so emotional and in such distress for him because she's like, but he's all alone. And Josh comes in and he says like, no, he's not, because he has his family with the 118. He has the larger community coming to help him.
She has help.
Yes. It's giving she has help. It's just giving Endgame. Like, oh wait, no, that was that was Endgame.
Yeah.
So it's just like that show of support and gratitude. I don't think Buck really knows what to do with that either, because I don't think he really thought it was about him. I think it was more about the general like thing that happened. So he doesn't feel like that it was like as personal to him, because these are all people that he doesn't know. They're, a lot of them are not part of his family. So I don't think he feels like he was maybe like deserving of it, but he's grateful, but like he just wants to get back out there.
He literally never talks about the accident.
No.
It's all about the after effects.
Like what it means going forward.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder too then if he fully remembers it. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, because he was in so much pain.
I'm surprised he didn't black out. To be honest with
I
you.
think that's also like the most, fight or flight, right? Another theme.
Probably some adrenaline. Giving him
a lot of adrenaline, I'm sure. And shock.
Yeah.
Right. And he's trained his body to ride out the adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before we maybe move on. So we didn't really talk about Athena's closing monologue. Like at the end of the episode, she delivers this monologue that's present in 2 different scenes, kind of. So one would have been at the firehouse during Eddie's shield ceremony, and the other is during the courthouse wedding. I feel like this scene in particular kind of like is a good example of some of what she says. So she starts off with saying, an emergency is the absence of choice. I'm gonna paraphrase. I'm not gonna read all of it. So that's one of the important beats. It's the absence of choice, but in the moment of darkness, we steal back that choice and we choose each other. That she goes on saying, we choose friendship, family, hope, joy. We choose to live. And then during the closing, she says,
oh, yeah.
So when the ground shifts beneath our feet and the storm rages around us, it's all these people that provide relief and offer shelter. This is how we can save ourselves, by saving each other, because not anybody has ever been saved alone.
Yeah, I think that's an important line there at the end to incorporate into Buck's experience in this emergency too, because this really isn't any of his choice. Like he literally, like Freddie says, is collateral damage because he had absolutely nothing to do with the whole impetus of Freddie doing this. And he wasn't even in the fire academy when that happened, as Bobby says. So, but the fact that like we save ourselves by saving each other, and nobody has ever been saved alone. So I think that is also like, one of the key reasons that the 118, like Hen and Chimney and Eddie, had to be the ones to save him, even though it was like they should have probably also been checked out too, because it could have been on either one of those engines, right?
Yeah.
So them coming together and that we save ourselves by saving each other. I think that is quintessentially Buck. I think he saves himself by throwing himself into saving others. I think that's just like elevator pitch for his character, Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't get any more like Buck than that. And it's nice then that it gets turned around, and when he's the one that needs saving, everyone else steps up for him too.
Then the next time we see Buck is him waking up in the hospital, which I think he's way more calm than I would be in the position he is in. Like, he is freaking out, but he's not freaking out like a normal person would. He is freaking out because he went under for that surgery with the question mark of if he'd ever be able to work again. So that's him waking up immediately. Like, he's not really thinking about like, oh, I'm in so much pain. Oh my God, this sucks. Oh my God, this is gonna be so much recovery. Oh my God, I was crushed by a fire. Doesn't talk about that at all.
No,
it's all about,
it's not.
Am I going to be able? It's all, yeah, sure, I'll be able to walk again, but can I work? Can I be a firefighter? Is literally all he cares about.
Yeah, he really doesn't take any time to process any of this stuff. It's always looking towards the next thing. I mean, you could say like he is trying to be optimistic and look for his like next step forward. Pun not really intended, but
just kick a man while he's down.
I know. Because firefighting is his life, and we'll see in like season 3 if he doesn't have the rest of his life to look forward to, and because his whole life is firefighting, then what does he have to live for? And that kind of comes into play at the beginning of season 3. He's kind of doing what Maddie did after Doug, where, he was telling her, isn't it a little bit soon for you to go back to work? So he's just being completely hypocritical here, which like, I get it, because it's different when it's not your emergency, right? So like, he's kind of not taking any of his own advice that he gave Maddie when she was in distress about like taking the time and trying to process the trauma and everything like that. I think it's because he feels like Maddie has more to live for now because Doug is no longer in the picture. So it's like her life has opened up, whereas his is closing in on him if he can't do his job. Even though he gave the advice, it's almost like it doesn't pertain to him with this.
And we see Allie and him again, and it's very cute and sweet again. And like, rip Chimney. What's it like to wake up and have your significant other?
That's so mean.
My God. Wow. I mean, I did have those thoughts of like, wow, she's not pulling a Tatiana.
Yeah. No, I mean, she was watching, like we see her watching the news and watching this all happen and, you know, really, really worried. And she's like tearing up, crying when the people are helping when she sees that he's going to
be okay.
And she's basically there as soon as he wakes up. And she stays through taking him home. But yeah, so she shows up and then like Maddie and Carla have this whole thing about like, I like admitted that he didn't like, we'll talk about this later, but like he thanks her for being there, which like I thought was, I mean, like, I guess maybe that's a normal thing to say, but I was like, is this just to make fun of Chimney?
Well, I guess because he has seen that before where
and he's not used to people showing up for him.
Yes. Yeah. Two-pronged. He's not used to people showing up for him like that because Maddie's still like new in town, kind of less so now after the entire season. I do think maybe he was thinking a little bit about the Chimney's rebar incident where Chimney was in a relationship that was, it seemed like it was much longer or more serious, according to Chimney, than where Buck and Allie are. Tatiana just like split because she couldn't hack it. And I mean, we see Allie does make a similar decision, but in a very different way, in a much more like mature way, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe in the back that was playing in the back of his mind.
But yeah, so like he thanks her, and then Maddie's like, I would like it noted that he didn't think either of us. And then Carla's like, I don't think he even knows we're still here. And like he does like just ignore them.
They are very Buck and Allie are very full on in this in this scene. And it's really funny. And I think it honestly, I just think it's because they hadn't done anything to showcase the development of their relationship on screen. So they had to make it like give it more stakes and stuff. But yeah, Carla also says like, because Carla is the one to be there directly when he wakes up. And she says, you know, you should take this moment and just be glad that you're alive. And he's just like, no, gotta move on to the next.
No, because if I'm not a firefighter, I might as well not be.
I might as well not even exist. Yeah. So that's what he'll be dealing with. And I know we're going to talk about him coming back home from the hospital in our scene dissection. But do we want to talk about just very briefly the tough love that Maddie gives him when they're preparing for Eddie's shield ceremony.
Badge ceremony.
I thought it was shield ceremony. It's either or. I'm sorry.
I Googled it when we had this conversation last time. It's badge.
My apologies. The ceremony, the probation graduation, which I think has a better ring to it. But
sure. So Maddie is absolutely mangling his pants with why would you ever use these scissors for that purpose?
Scissors.
Yeah.
Instead of anyway, a thread ripper. And then it looks awful. He's right. It does look awful.
It does look awful.
You could have just like cut. Would have been easy. And then like
it was like cow kitchen scissors. Like you could have used anything.
I think she needed to get some of her anger out.
Maybe.
Her frustration at him.
So yeah, I don't know. I did find it weird that she was like, you need to be resting. Like you shouldn't even be. And I was like, he can't. I'm like, he has to go to doctor's appointments. He can't go sit at the ceremony for like an hour.
Like he can be on crutches. I understand like not be up and about for too long. But yeah.
But I don't know. I think she's...
Well, I think this is basically like we just said, the reversal of that scene that we were talking about with Buck and Maddie when they were having lunch or brunch at the diner after Doug. And now Maddie's taken this point of like, well, now you need time to heal. You need time to process. And he's just like, nope, this is more important. Not just, and I think in the grander scheme, like not just Eddie's ceremony, which is important to him that he goes and supports his friend and has his back. But also this is more important for him to show that he can get the surgeries done. The sooner he can go back to work, the sooner he can keep living his life that he chose.
I thought this ceremony was more about supporting Eddie and then being around his family in his home. Yeah. But
I mean, there are two.
Yeah.
I think it's both. But the surgeries part is more about like getting back.
Well, the surgeries part is 100% about getting back to work. Well, and his family, but that's the same thing. So then he drops this bomb on her about like, oh, they'll just fix that with everything else. Like if he hurts himself or whatever.
And she's like,
and
what?
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
And then she finds out that like he's electing to have a surgery that the doctors are recommending against because they want to wait and see like a little longer if things are going to be healing the way that they want them to before like going into a surgery. And he's like, no, I just want to get back as fast as possible, which is just like not what you want to do with broken bones in general. Like if you can avoid a surgery or more surgeries, it's always
better.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder then, like, wouldn't the doctors just be like, we do not recommend this for you, so we cannot give it to you. I don't know if it really works like that.
I think there's a difference between like you just showing up and being like, I want this surgery, and then being like, this might need done because they gave me when I broke my like very minor compared to this, but when I broke my leg, they were like, it's very close to needing surgery. So they let me decide. They were like, do you want to try and go the regular route or do you want to go ahead with surgery? Because you might still have to get it if it doesn't heal correctly. So, that might be where he's at. And it might be them saying that, but we recommend that you do this, but still giving him the option. That's probably what it was.
Makes sense. And of course, he's going to choose the option that gets him
on his feet quicker. Literally.
So
exactly.
So it's not like he signed himself out against doctors' recommendation kind of thing. It's like here are the two options. We recommend this one because it's better if you.
And he's just gonna go against those recommendations, and because this is his choice, and he's taking like autonomy over it, even if it's not. And that's kind of what Buck does sometimes. Is like he may exercise his autonomy, but in ways that are not the most beneficial to him.
No, because he exercises his autonomy in a way that kind of is almost taking his autonomy away because it's like he thinks he is only good for what his body can do for other people.
Yeah. And if his body is broken, that means he is broken and he can't look at that now.
He's useless.
Yeah, he doesn't want to unpack all of that.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, so Maddie says like, after he is so emphatically like, this being a firefighter is the only thing I've done that's important and that's mattered. And oh God, just like what a performance of that scene too, because it's just so like emphatic, like just so felt instinctually. And Maddie's like, but you will still be Buck, and we, as in like the whole family, we will love you. And that's such a beautiful sentiment to reiterate. It's sad because of the fact that she has to reiterate it, right? That it's not just a given, and also kind of makes me think how little Buck has heard that in his life. And probably only from Maddie, that he doesn't have that ingrained in him, Yeah. And that's probably why he like brushes it off.
Right. And then she also does try to appeal to this like him saying that that firefighting is the only thing that he's ever done that's mattered and important. And she tries to appeal to that because I know she's not going in with the just a we will still love you argument, thinking that's going to work with her brother. And says there are lots of other important things that you can do with your life. And he's like, no, I've already made my choice.
Mm-hmm. End of discussion.
End of discussion.
And this kind of goes with, what Bobby says at the ceremony, like sometimes this life chooses us. And for Buck, now that he has been chosen by this life, now that this life has chosen him, he doesn't want any other choice. He may have kind of fallen into firefighting, but now that he's here, there is no other choice for him.
He's got a death hold on that,
which kind of makes it really amazing to see like where he's come to like at the beginning of season 8 when I mean, granted, it's like under Gerard, but it's like, we should all just quit. And it's just kind of like seeing that, like that season 8 Buck put against this season 2 Buck is like so interesting to me.
Well, I don't think he
doesn't actually want to leave.
No,
but it's
and I don't think he thought like, oh, we quit and we don't go back to firefighting. Mm-hmm. It was like, we quit and protest and then things will change.
Yeah, but even for that to to come across his mind as a solution to this problem is kind of like, whoa, because that never would have crossed his mind in season 2 because there is no quitting. Like it is firefighting or it is absolutely nothing at all.
Yep.
There's no quitting. Like I'm not a quitter.
Firefighting or bust. Firefighting or bust.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Firefighting or bust.
Hey! Where's the fire?
All right. So I think that brings us to our scene dissection, and we are going to look a little more intensely at the Buck and Allie breakup, which happens after Buck comes home from the hospital, and Allie is with him, and they're settling him in to his newly furnished apartment, which with the couch, which also, if you have not listened to our couch theory episode, we also talk about this there. So
we talk about this breakup. We talk about the blocking and the meaning of the couch and all of it. So like we do really get into dissecting it.
Yeah.
There.
And we'll try not to be too reiterative, but I think we can just pop in a couple different comments. But if you want a more thorough of like the production and the like them on the couch specifically, as opposed to like the grander
metaphor,
scene.
the symbolism
of like the couch specifically.
Yeah.
Go check that out. So Buck is entering his newly furnished apartment with the furnishings that Allie, as a interior decorator or designer, probably picked out for him, interestingly enough, including the couch. And just like Buck has been all season, he is now kind of bumming as a roommate in his own apartment, and couch surfing even in his own place now. So just like the terrible.
What she says, you're like a perpetual when he's like, I miss my own bed, which I won't. Like him, it's like he forgot that he has to go upstairs to his bed.
He probably did forget. Let's be real.
Cool. He just moved in there.
Yeah.
He probably got to sleep in it like a couple nights.
He was probably like, I would not have moved in here if I had known this was going to happen.
No, he
me.
does say that.
Oh,
he's like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that if I knew I was going to like get crushed by municipal
equipment. Never sign a lease if you intend on being crushed by municipal equipment.
Yeah. So it's just like he's been going from Chimney's couch to Maddie's couch to his own couch.
Yeah, you know who doesn't have stairs? You know where he could have just slept at? You know who's like, well, whatever. Never mind, because he still would have been sleeping on the couch. So I mean,
yeah, but we haven't seen him there yet.
That's
that
true.
Is true.
I don't think
we've been to Eddie's house with Buck. No, I don't think we have.
We've seen Buck at Eddie's house yet.
So,
no, we haven't.
No,
that only happens after the events of season 3 at the beginning. See, which is also interesting. Anyways,
so what is he wearing?
He's He's wearing oh, what's that color when you mix yellow and blue together?
Oh, do you mean Breakup green?
Oh, that's the one.
He's wearing Breakup green.
It all starts here, folks.
Crazy work.
On the couch. Oh my god, this is like, it's like Breakup Clue. Where
Is he wearing that dark green? Oh, you know a breakup's coming.
Oh, yep. That's the dark green, and then it's the serious talk coffee table.
Yeah, like the color, the place, and the weapon. I don't know. Yeah. What is
book being broken up with on a couch? Fork found in kitchen.
Couch found in living room. No, but that is absolutely wild that he's wearing Breakup green, which has like, it's at least 3 times.
Crazy work.
That's
Eddie
more
too.
than a pattern.
So that's that's on purpose.
Costuming department of 911. We love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Please let us know where we can send you your flowers and or edible arrangements, whichever you so choose. Thank you very much.
That being said, when Buddy do get together, I don't ever want to see Breakup green on either one of them. Thank you very much. Please burn those shirts away. Please burn those shirts.
When they get together, there needs to be Breakup green involved, like somehow.
No, because what they do sometimes is they put couples in blue and green. So like Bobby and Athena.
That's different.
That's different.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think just keep a lookout for this dark green that Buck tends to wear when he gets broken up with.
It's like he knows.
So, I mean, I guess I'll get my thing out of the way real quick. So their breakup was pretty much paralleled or mostly paralleled. I was going to say foreshadowed, but I mean, you see this very direct parallel with the call with Roy and Maude at the was it like a race car derby thing?
Yeah, it was like a stunt show or something.
Or stunt show. Yeah, so like essentially here
it was at a racetrack.
Yeah, at a racetrack. So essentially you've got your characters like paralleled with the same kind of role. So Roy being the boyfriend daredevil who's, doing risky things. The girlfriend who's, well, I would say she's very different from Allie, but
she's reluctantly supportive.
Reluctantly supportive, and she's playing the girlfriend role. And then there's the Roy's car, which is equating the ladder truck. or both being professions that they, Buck and Roy love respectfully.
The dangerous profession.
Profession. So as we know, Roy gets stuck. His hair gets stuck in
like the engine.
In the engine, which equates to Buck's leg getting crushed by the ladder truck. Yeah. They get him out, yay! And as they're getting, so when Roy is getting like onto the ambulance, he's like, "Oh, Maude, we can do this again. I'm gonna do it again, and it's gonna be like a higher, like more risk involved. Call up everyone, because I'm okay."
Yeah.
And then Buck's over here like, he wants to go be back on the job. He still wants to continue doing what he's doing. So like, I mean, that was like that really funny direct parallel and foreshadow to what happens with Buck and Allie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to assume that Roy and Maude broke up after that. So just to complete it, make it full circle.
Yeah. So we see Allie kind of try and feel out, even though I think she already knows going into this that Buck wants to continue firefighting, because she even starts off the conversation by saying, "So like, have you thought about what's next?" And he immediately is on
the defense.
Like, whoa, wait, what do you mean? Does someone say something to you? Like, wait, he's tweaking out.
He really is. It's like, did someone give you information? Did the doctors tell you something? They didn't tell me.
You get something via carrier pigeon? Like, what the fuck do you mean? HIPAA exists, Buck. You know this. But yeah, so he's like, I'm going to go back to work. Like, what else? And she's like, yeah, basically that's what she thought. And he's like, what is going on? And she's like, I watched you almost die. And he's like, that's my job.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's his line. It's, you almost died, but I didn't.
I know. It's just like
it keeps going
that's
on.
Not a good counter argument, Buck.
He can't say that anymore, though.
No, but he can say,
6.
but I lived. He can't say, I didn't die.
Doesn't he say something similar though in season 6? It's like, you died, but I'm fine.
But I'm fine. Yeah.
I'm fine.
It didn't take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's
mostly dead.
He's
mostly dead. Yeah. So then she's like, it's not like I didn't know you were in dangerous line of work when I met you, because how they met was
at the earthquake. Saving her.
In a collapsing high rise. And he's like, yeah, exactly. And she's like, well, that was just one day of my life. It's every day for you. And I'm just starting to understand what that means. And he's like, wait, so you want me to quit my job? Is that what you're asking me to do? And it's like, and she's like, no, I would never ask you to do that.
Yeah,
and like,
I think it's not funny, but like the way he jumps to conclusions about that, it's like you can really see like how his thought process works, where he receives like any like modicum of not even like
astrology
critique.
Is out, right?
Yeah.
This is the Cancer moon. Jumping the fuck out.
Yeah, it's
that's why he's tweaking.
It's his jumping to conclusion. So it's the way that he like jumps to conclusions. It's not even like really a criticism that she gives him about this, but he's so just kind of like the way he's hearing or like what he's hearing and how he's processing to him is just like this big ticker tape in his head of just like, she wants you to quit. She doesn't want you to be who you are. Blah, 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 blah. And that understandably freaks him out. But to Allie's credit, and I think so much of this scene is like, to her credit, she knows, like, to an extent, she does actually see him because she knows that he would want to go back to work immediately, like as soon as he can. She says she would never ask him to quit his job. So like, there's an element there where like Allie is very understanding.
Yeah.
But Buck doesn't really see that because he's so like clouded in his own turmoil right now that he can't really understand this from another perspective at the moment because he's so entrenched in his and the trauma of potentially not going back to work. And for Allie, like, yeah, that they did meet in an emergency kind of way, but that's also a little more like, and it's a little more like in the abstract, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is different when it's your emergency. So it's kind of a flip on that as well, because like she had her emergency at the beginning. That's how they met. But when she is at home, just watching, looking on and not able to do anything from a completely outside perspective, it is different because, and it's kind of that flip on the, when it's your emergency theme, because it was her emergency first and now it's not, but she can only like watch it as it happens. Kind of like what Maddie was doing in Dispatch, but at least Maddie can like help people out at Dispatch. Allie, who is not in the life, literally can't do anything except like be supportive, right? Mm-hmm. Which she is. She can't really see that life for herself.
Which is what the end of this conversation is, where after he is like, "What, you're asking me to quit my job?"
And she's like, "No."
She's like, "Listen, I know it's who you are. I'm just not sure." And then Buck is like, he's getting it now. He's understanding now. He's like, if it's who you are. And then, she's trying to be reassuring and she's like, hey, I don't know yet. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But even though she says like, I just don't know yet, it's pretty much like doors closed.
Yeah. I'm sure that they did not last much longer than this. Like, how do you move forward from that?
No. And I mean, at least she doesn't string him along like Abby. And this is where the differences are between Allie and Abby.
What?
That elective surgery might have been the axe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because, that actually makes a lot of sense. And it's not like she would be pulling a Tatiana either in this case. It's just like, how can she support him when he's getting ready to almost like harm himself?
Yeah, because it's like, well, she's trying to figure out if she can even support him being a firefighter. Like, but it's like, and you're going against what your doctor even recommends. Like, you're like, I can't. Like, I mean, I'm just trying to see from her point of view. And if I was already at the point where I'm like, I don't think I can do this.
That makes a lot of sense.
That would push me over.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially when you're just like, like she watched it happen. There would be emergencies. There would be emergencies where she doesn't see it on live TV. And she would probably be like
freaking out like every day.
Yeah. And like just waiting for that phone call, kind of like.
And they're long distance. So it's not like she gets to come home at the end of the day and see that he's okay.
Mm-hmm. So it really is like, I gotta respect Allie's choice in this, just like being completely honest and saying like, I respect your choices as a firefighter and how your world revolves around that, but I'm not sure I can take that on for myself and that stress of being the partner to someone in that line of work, which is a completely like rational, understandable, and fair response. Because not everybody's cut out for that kind of stress.
Just so like I do understand and I respect her for like when she realized this, talking about it. But I also understand Buck being like, exactly, you met me on a call like this. Like, what do you mean you don't know? You're the one who called me.
Right. And again, it's because having these things in abstract is so much different than like experiencing it. I understand from both sides, which I think is why at first Buck sees that as like an affront to his personhood, because he can't extrapolate himself from his job because
he sees it as a rejection of like him personally.
Exactly. And it's not. And so like the more they talk, the more he's like, okay, I don't get it, but I guess.
Still defensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, oh, you're
just leaving.
I understand, but you're leaving. So
yeah.
Cool.
And she's got it going for her that she does not string him along for months and months and months. Like Abby. And that's where the difference is.
The bar was 40 feet underground. So
yeah, it was. I was just going to say the bar was on the ground floor of that apartment building.
Flying on the cold hard.
Yeah. The bar. Wait. Oh, wait. The bar was underneath the truck. I did.
Yes, you did. You did what?
I want to talk a little bit about how Allie calls Buck Evan, because I don't think she says Buck. I don't think she calls him by name at all during this episode. At least not that I caught. I may be wrong.
That was one day of my life, Evan.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
No, she doesn't.
No, I just checked the transcript. I have it up.
Okay, perfect. So it's interesting because we know that everybody calls him Buck, and I think Maddie's the only one that calls him Evan occasionally, not even that much right now. So I was curious because like when they meet in the earthquake at the building, like he introduces himself as Buck, right? So at what point, and a lot of this is kind of just like me postulating and like posing some hypotheticals, but like at what point did they get to the spot, like if they're still like so young in their relationship, when did they get to her calling him Evan point? And like, is this supposed to illustrate how well she knows Buck? Because we haven't seen that development. So like, I don't know how earned that feels. Or is it something more to like contrast with Abby? Because Abby never called Buck Evan. Abby, I don't think even knew that his name was Evan. So like in comparison contrast between Allie and Abby may have understood the job because she was she's also a first responder, but she never quite understood, and she always kind of like underestimated Buck. So like that kind of like lack of closeness there. I kind of feel since Allie understands that Buck wants to go out immediately, go back out to the job, and she would never ask him to quit. Like there's a way that Allie sees Buck for who he is and who he wants to be, which is in itself kind of like two-dimensional because his identity is so tied to being a firefighter and nothing else of him exists outside of that. So like she does kind of see him in that way, but it's still, she's seeing him in the way he's seeing himself, which is very two-dimensional. So is it like Allie calls him Evan because she understands him more, or is it just like to contrast with Abby? I don't know, but I just think it's interesting because not only does she not call him Buck in this episode, but she doesn't call him by any name except in this moment where it is Evan. How does that come to be?
I think it's just because one of two things. It's either and, like and or either, I don't know, whatever. She either is just like not a nickname person or she just thought that this is like an on the job nickname. Like think about like,
okay, I like
this
that
kind
idea.
of like these kind of jobs like firefighter, military, like sports teams, you know what I mean? Like, and then your like your guys or your bros, like think about like frat houses, which is how she like knew he just knew that he just came from one. So like she probably just thought that was like,
so it's in essence then it for this idea it's her further like divorcing herself from that aspect of his life, right? Because she's so like removed from it because she doesn't know. She's not a first responder. I can live with that. I just think that's interesting and maybe like
because it just sounds kind of like, it doesn't sound childish, but you know what I mean? Like Buck is not like a regular name or nickname you'd hear for someone. So like, that's just what I would assume. Like when TJ, just very quick, when TJ and I started dating, like we met at work and he went by TJ. I learned that this was because there were so many Thomases and and then there was a Thomas, there was a Tom, and there was a Tommy. So he was like TJ because that's his first initial and his second initial. So I only knew him by TJ. Like, and then I learned his name was Thomas, and I was like, I'm never calling you that. My entire family, all my friends, call him TJ. I've never called him Tommy or Thomas. I literally never will. I've never had. It's been 15 years almost, especially now. But his family calls him Tom, Tommy. I don't think they ever call him Thomas, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so that's just like how I got to know him. Like if he had a weird ass nickname and we didn't work together, I would probably assume that's not, that's not for me to call you that name. That's like your bros to call you that name, basically.
But it is also kind of interesting because the only other significant other love interest of Buck's that does call him Evan is Tommy. Even though Tommy is in the first responder life, there's still like some sort of delineation there that I think Buck is either searching out or trying to like, I think he's trying to like compartmentalize certain things. So maybe that's why he allows that for both. And for this case with Allie, it's compartmentalizing because she doesn't like live in the first responding sphere, and for Tommy it maybe because it's like the queer relationship and exploring that.
Flash forward a little bit. Just think about the meaning of like in Buck Begins.
Yeah,
when it's call him Buck, that's what people who know him call him. So it might just be as simple as that, as like the writers making delineations there.
Yeah, maybe she doesn't know him at all.
Yeah.
But I just felt like that was counter to like what she was providing in that with she knows that he was going to go out there and get back to it. So just something like a thought experiment. Thank you for indulging me in that. I appreciate it. It's time.
It's 10:45. Do you know where your gays are?
They're at the firehouse.
Okay.
We're just going to go down a list.
We gotta. I think this is pretty much in order too, but like we can jump around if we need to. So, Sel, you want to do the first one?
Do the honors.
You want to start the first one? Drum roll.
Whatever one you want.
So our first clue of the day.
Breadcrumb.
Closet space. Okay. So
Yeah.
So insane work with just the introduction of closet space in regards to Buck. So, like Buck and Allie are, looking at the loft, and right before we cut to our next scene, she ends the scene with her line being, "Okay, let's talk about closet space."
Mm-hmm.
She's like glommed onto Buck, and then she's like, then she angles her head towards the real estate agent and is whispering, is like, "Let's talk about closet space."
Like, what are you trying?
Because it's a secret, because he doesn't know.
Right? It's kind of like, hey, if we flash forward to a scene in season 7. Tim,
we
this
see
is
you.
Crazy.
We know what you're doing.
Particularly like the restaurant scene, the date with Tommy, and then Eddie and his big old mouth shows up. And, he's talking about how Marisol is moving in, and then like Eddie says something along the lines of, "Yeah, you can't have enough closet space," or something like that, right? And then I'm confused.
Tommy says that.
Tommy's the one who says closet space.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I don't remember what Eddie said, honestly. I just know that.
Oh, I
you got the
think
line.
I have it in
good.
our plot device notes. Please hold.
Which should also be out at this point.
Hey, okay.
Unreal.
I love that for references. I can now look at our own notes.
Isn't this great?
Look at us building up an archive here.
So proud of us.
Eddie says, "Guess you can never have enough closet space."
Oh.
And Tommy goes, "Ain't that the truth? Right, Effin?"
So I was right.
Oh, yeah, because it's wild that Eddie's the one that says it, too. That's...
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Crazy work, Timothy. Crazy work.
Mm-hmm. Because this is written by him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just the act of making her whisper that, like, crazy work. And then what's also crazier is the editing. Because I know it doesn't really fit in here, but I'm just going to talk into the beats of what made me realize this whole thing was just crazy. So before the real estate, before, looking into the loft and seeing, the loft and considering it, the scene before that is the Roy and Maude scene, which was like that whole like foreshadow parallel to the Buck and Allie situation. And then we're going into, let's talk about closet space, right into the call with the botfly and all of the, the chat going off saying, "Oh my God, Buck and Eddie are so cute together." And just crazy work how like that whole sequence.
Yes. Just like the way they decided to like edit it together and like this goes to that is fantastically wild. Can we talk about that live stream for a second? Because that is, as Tim said in that article, that was a shout out to the Twitterverse. I love anytime we break a fourth wall. Big fan. This was uncalled for. There's also,
so you've got a bunch of thirsting first, right?
Yes.
You've got, I took screenshots. You've got those guys are cute, and then you've got, "Hello, Mr. Firefighter."
Oh, I love the one
Buck looking at the maggot.
I love the one where it's like, "They could put me in a sling any day." Yeah,
then we have LA's finest, and then we have "Those two could put me in a sling any day." Oh my God, those two are so cute together. They should totally be a couple. Why is the one who said, "Oh my God, those two are so cute together," Kanye West?
I don't know who came up with these usernames. But like,
that is
also Also, these people just like RPFing on Maine. Like,
RPF was legalized in the 911 universe. You heard it here first.
Actually,
Tim Minear legalized.
it's his law. Like, there's
Law
actually another fic on AO3. I think a lot of people know it. It's called Those Two Firefighters, but it's kind of like one of those epistolary fics where it kind of is. Buck and Eddie have gained a following online, so now people recognize them from that live stream, and you see like
Reddit loves them.
What? Oh yes,
Reddit
loves them, and so this fic is amazing, and you kind of just see like little like vignettes of people reacting to seeing them like on a call or like they had an emergency and it was them,
like trying to figure out if they're together or not.
Amazing fic. One of the first ones I ever read in 911.
Same.
And it's so good. So it's basically the people on the chat from their perspective, another like outside perspective kind of thing. But like, but just absolutely crazy to go from like thirsting to shipping so fast. And also like, what a specific call out to the Twitterverse, as Mr. Minear said. Like, this is very pointed. This is very specific. This is giving Blair the elf, like, with the fountain in the background. Like, and this is all his doing. He's doing this to us on purpose.
Yes.
Oh,
you read us
hold
for
on
Phil.
A second.
Mm-hmm.
What?
In which order do those scenes appear? The closet space, and that those two should be together.
The closet space
was before those. What do you mean?
Yeah, because the botfly happens after they tour the loft with Allie, and the influencer is recording in her room right in front of her closet.
I'm just gonna double check.
It is. I just said that.
I think she's right. Yeah, it is. It is, because I wrote it down that way. It's the loft with the closet space, and then the next time we see it's.
Yeah. Okay. It literally goes right from there. That's. Yep. Yeah. Let's talk closet space being the end of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
The end of that scene. That's the last thing that's said and seen. And going straight to the influencer in front of her open closet.
Open closet. Specifically.
Her open closet.
Mm-hmm. Open closet.
And putting those two should totally be a couple. They're so cute together on the... Tim.
It gets worse.
Hold on. Buck and Eddie are the only ones that show up in the live stream on camera in front of that open closet.
He really said these are closet cases.
There's... God. That was more than I think we even picked up on when we were watching this episode together.
I love this section, though. I love this section because the shit always happens.
It just snowballs.
Yeah, it just snowballs in the best way.
God.
And I will revisit this in season 4, but this is like more food for thought about that one theory that they were supposed to be canon in season 4 or something, or season 5 or whatever.
I think it's more than a theory. I think it's almost confirmed.
Buck was supposed to have his feelings realization in season 4. Mm-hmm. I think that's what was supposed to happen. In my head, what was supposed to happen is kind of like what we're doing now. So it's like Buck feelings realization for gay
Eddie's queer arc after breakup with Anna.
Because that was so clearly and then them getting together in 6, like after the like, that's what should have happened.
Was going to happen, but
yes,
extenuating circumstances.
But that's what would have started the canon train. So I was explaining this to Ali Dominguez on TikTok. If y'all don't follow her,
oh yeah,
she is great. She made a video about like, why do people keep saying Buddie was supposed to go canon in season 4? Because coming from any other fandom, saying like canon means like they hook up, they're together, endgame, like canon, they're canon. But I really think this fandom is like, no, any part of the like
the queer equation.
Like, you can't have one thing without the other. You know what I mean? So
because it has to happen in steps because of the way the characters were introduced, not being queer.
Exactly.
So you have to do like step 1, make gay.
Yeah, so I explained the 4, 5, 6 theory, and I'm like, that's what we're doing right now with, I think, 7, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, I agree. Gosh, next one.
I want to talk about the most murderous case of gay face I think maybe we ever see on Eddie Diaz.
The most?
Yeah, murderous.
I don't know. I think Cell Block 911 is.
I'm talking gay, like gay, like not like okay, I am gay.
Just not. Just
I'm murderous. No, like gay love murderous.
It all comes back to murder husbands.
It'll always come back to this. It'll always end here. Shut up. Let me tell you about my feels.
For real.
But yeah, that look, bro, because everyone's there. Everyone's reacting to everything that's happening. You get to see everyone's faces for the accident itself, how like they can't get help to him, how then he asks for the captain and then Chimney's there, and then how Bobby goes out, and then they're like talking about how they need to get to Buck and like how he's like they need to get to, they're running out of time. You keep seeing all of their reactions, right? And they look really worried. But then when Freddie says, oh, he's collateral damage about Buck, they pan back over.
They do
to the trio, and like he looks like he's literally about to set someone on fire with his mind. Like if looks could kill, he would have been dead.
Eddie did not like hearing Buck being collateral damage at all. I mean, to be fair, I think if any one of them were in that situation, they wouldn't like it. But like it's specifically because
that face,
because Buck is Eddie's partner and he can't have his back right now.
No. But I'm just saying, like, you swap out someone else in that position and they're calling one of his other teammates collateral damage. Oh, he'd be angry, but he wouldn't. I don't think he'd be
that.
I'm about to light a bitch up angry.
Yeah. Eddie kind of looked like he was so close to just like running in there too.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that probably stopped him was Christopher. Think of Christopher.
Yeah. Because we see this with Eddie where like when it comes to like being there for his teammates, when they're in danger, he's very logical and can think things through. When it's anyone but Buck, but when it's Buck, it's, you know what I mean?
That's,
just like
that's when he runs into action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since he can't do that here, it's kill you with my mind.
Yeah. Because we kind of I kill you with my mind. Because we saw that kind of similarly. It's not exactly the same, but similarly in episode 14, Broken, when Buck falls off the ladder trying to get to the boy in the house, and Buck can't do it. So Eddie immediately like has Buck's back and does his little Spider-Man routine up to the roof of the house. So yeah, it really is like Eddie doesn't do a lot of thinking when it comes to Buck. It's almost like it's instinctual. Interesting.
So then when he's finally able to get to Buck, what's he doing?
He holding his hand.
They holding hands.
Holding hands. Buck is also holding Hen's hand. But,
I know.
But. Oh, I had this thought earlier when I was rewatching. It's not exactly the same, but like, does your ship have two instances where someone is trying to pull one out from under an engine, and the next time the opposite pulling the other one under the engine? Just saying, because Eddie and Hen are grabbing onto Buck to pull him out, so they're not actively lifting the truck. They are ready to pull Buck out when he's able to get free. Rachel. And then in season 4, what does Buck do but the exact like mirror of it, but bringing Eddie to safety underneath the truck?
Oh my God.
I love thinking about stuff like that. It hurts me so much.
You know what? I hope that none of your pillows are cold tonight.
Why would you say that to me?
Because that was so
terrible. Oh my God, that's the meanest thing you've ever said to me.
Oh my
don't see the distress that you put me and Han through just now.
I couldn't even look at you. I was really angry.
I'm sorry to bring that to your attention. But I did have that thought earlier, and it's not like the.
I was thinking of something slightly cuter, which is that they started the season and ended the season touching hands.
Oh, that's much cuter than my thing. So sorry.
I'm here for the angst, though.
What?
I said I'm here for the angst.
I'm here for the angst.
Yeah, I mean, I just had that. I just thought of that earlier, and this wouldn't have happened if I wasn't rewatching it or before we recorded. But I was just like, oh no, oh no, no. Oh, no. Like it's not like a 1-to-1 same thing, but the fact that it's the opposite because it's the opposite person as well and the opposite direction. I was like, oh
no.
It's almost like I need to do a watch through that's only dedicated for each episode that's only dedicated to finding the gay things, which
we probably will do whenever we're done with the show. So in like 5 years
oh my god
of the podcast, like once we've gone through all of it, then we can start again only looking for the gay stuff.
Only the gay things.
Only the gay stuff, because now we've shown you that we can look at all of it.
Yeah, at this point,
we've shown you we can be objective
and equal opportunity. So now that we've earned our PhD,
we're only here to talk about gay people, okay?
It's like, this is
I need a gay person.
I need to talk to a gay person right now. I really wanted that in there.
Oliver Stark, probably.
Oh, speech bubble. No, him saying that.
Yeah. Yes, not me calling him a gay person. It's him in any interview with someone.
Him on Pink News.
Oh my god. I know that man was so relieved. Finally.
He's like, you get it.
I don't have to explain bisexuality. So
oh my god.
That man is going through it. Oh my god.
Oh, flashbacks to that one interview.
He is fighting for bisexual rights. Okay.
Oh my god. Okay.
Anyway, back on track. When Eddie and Hen finally pull Buck out from under the ladder truck, and they finally are like getting him, onto a stretcher to be taken to the hospital, you hear everyone being like, hold on, blah, 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 blah. And then Eddie specifically says, hang in there, buddy. So,
I mean, I don't think they had created the ship name yet.
I was going to ask, when did they create the ship name?
We're just going to call this the birthplace.
Sure.
Wait,
Buddie Begins.
When was that post? I mean, there's a picture on Instagram of Oliver and Ryan like in their trailers or something, and they were both wearing like gray shirts, and the 911 on Fox. Maybe is it still there? The 911 on Fox Instagram was like Team Buck or Team Eddie, and then Ryan commented, was like, pause. If we're calling this anything, it's Team Buddie all day, every day.
So it's an old picture though, right? Because
yeah, but I don't know when that post was posted. So yeah, hang in there, buddy, as also the ship name as decided upon by the people who play the characters that are being shipped.
See,
crazy work. Okay, can we talk about the scene where Bobby comes back to the station after being reinstated? Because, boy, did it seem similar to something we've seen at the beginning of this season. Maybe by, I don't know, introducing a certain character in the glass locker room, their glass closet, if you will. But that doesn't take place in this episode. So this is one of those things that I went back to 201 to kind of like look shot for shot. And it's not exactly like shot for shot the same, but it is very similar in the movement of the camera. Yeah. And I think Brad Bucher directed both of these. I'm pretty sure he did the first one. The
odds are that he directed it.
It's a season opener. No, he didn't. It was Gwyneth Horder Payton.
Oh.
Bradley Bucher directed 2 and 3. because it was the big
Right.
emergency.
Right.
Okay, so not the same director, but very similar in style. He probably did go back and reference it because it's very close. Because in 201, we're following Bobby entering the station. In this episode, we're following Eddie entering the station, which we couldn't do in 201. They're both Bobby and Eddie, which is also interesting that they choose both of them because they are parallel characters. So they're greeting Bobby's greeting Hen, Eddie's greeting Chimney, and then the other ones come into play. And we see this like circular, this kind of like shot in the round where the camera keeps circling all of them as they're talking. And, they're saying welcome back and in both episodes, and just kind of like looking, just like going around as they're having this conversation or like panning to each of them. Hen is in yellow in both scenes. It's kind of an interesting wardrobe choice there too. I thought at first it was the same yellow jacket, but it's not. That she wears in 201. It's just a yellow shirt, but it's like very similar in shade. So this whole scene is very much paralleling Eddie's introduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's one thing missing because Buck is not there. So, Hen is talking about how, everything's getting back to the way it should be. And as we mentioned earlier, Eddie is the only one to say, well, almost.
Yeah. I mean, Buck isn't there, and he looks very like kind of like somber-ish, like contemplative, like everyone else is like happy like,
because Bobby's back. Yeah,
Bobby's
so it's
back,
like
right?
Everything is as it should be. But for Eddie, because Buck is his direct partner, it's not back to where it should be. And I think that really is a beautiful parallel to 201, because on the other hand, we had Buck be like, who is this intruder coming in to steal my job, essentially? And it's just such like a complete mirror, like flip of reactions and flip of circumstances as well, because you have Buck and Eddie who don't know each other yet. And Buck is feeling very threatened, very insecure in his job. And then you have Eddie in 218 that is like, this is my partner. It doesn't feel right without him. Like, this is the friendship. This is the relationship that they have built across these 18 episodes. And it's just like, what a cool way to parallel that. And it also, I think, really shows how intrinsic Buck is to the 118 as that family. So I think it's a really interesting parallel for this to be in the season finale, to parallel so similarly to 201 and how Buck and Eddie as a partnership and has grown.
I also think it's interesting that Eddie says things are like, he's basically saying things are almost getting back to how they're supposed to be. And then we immediately cut to the Buck and Allie breakup. I thought that was hilarious.
The cutting in this episode is just insane.
Yeah. And Tim
Closet space. Those two are so cute. They should be a couple.
The way
things are getting back to the way they're supposed to be. Almost. Buck's single again.
No, and then you also have, and then just quickly, you also have, this is more important, with Maddie and Buck cutting to Eddie's ceremony.
Yes.
Crazy work.
Because being there for Eddie is more important than his health. Okay. Someone's down bad.
Crying he does cry at the gym, actually.
And we know that Tim is very hands-on in post-production. Like, he helps a lot with the final edits. And because Tim works with Brad all the time, like, you can just imagine they were working on this edit together, and
you're in cahoots.
They are in cahoots.
You're in gay cahoots.
So whether it was Brad, whether it was Tim, whether it was any combination of the two of them together in post-production with editing, and how they edited this episode together, going from one scene to another, and come on.
Wild.
That's wild.
I have two things really quick that I want to talk about from like the monologue at the end.
Mhm.
And it's just because of like what the monologue is saying and the music that's playing when we see our first ever Buck and Eddie hug.
Aww.
It's our first one, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a big moment because they don't hug very often. And it's the first one on the show. What is playing is the Decemberist song, All My Life. And the whole song is, for once in my life, can something go right?
Stop.
Right? That's the song.
Uh-huh.
So that's the song that's playing in the background while their first hug happens. And what is Athena saying at the exact moment that they hug each other? We choose each other.
Oh my God.
We choose each other. That's an editing choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, we choose each other. We choose friendship and family. Completely, their hug is not on screen anymore when friendship and family is said. I just thought that was interesting.
Oh, almost like they are more than friends and family.
It's giving.
Yeah.
I love you. I love all of you.
Oh my God. Still.
How many supernatural references did we do today?
Because that's the only. Well, wait, no. I guess we talked about Demon Dean.
I think it's like 3.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, those are definite editing choices when you're putting a song over something like that.
Those are choices.
And depending on what cuts you want to make to have it be played over.
To have who you choose to be, because you see everyone. You see everyone like panned to during that.
There are shots of everyone.
Everyone is here.
But everyone's featured, right? But you have a whole monologue. And normally when they do these monologues, they're choosing who to show during what's being said, right? So
very conscious choices in an episode that's all about choice.
This life we choose.
Yes, production is making a lot of very specific choices for an episode that is all about choosing things with active intent, right? And then I think one of the last things we'll talk about is we mentioned briefly during our maybe slight diatribe about Eddie and his family, about how Eddie says to his dad, I chose this life for a reason. And Ramon says, well, you can choose another one. And that has always read to me as just like a very, I didn't choose to be this way. Well, choose to be another way. Very like air of homophobia about
that.
It.
That is a very like religious, like common thing, because they think it's a choice.
Yeah.
They think that being gay is a choice.
So I've always read that as just like Ramon and Helena just being like, well, if you can choose another life, in just talking about his vocation and location as a firefighter, you can either choose to be a firefighter in another place or you can choose to have a different job. Tell me how you cannot like take that a little further and just being like, well, if Eddie, as we choose to interpret in so much of this, and because there is evidence abound, that can like that's so easily like translated that verbiage, that conversation into, well, you can choose to not be gay. You can choose to not be, any one of the Lost Gibbities,
Yeah.
And it's like that. So that has always been very queer coded for me. I'm going
to be so insufferable if when we get his coming out gay realization, whatever, if we get some sort of flashback to him being told something like this, like by his dad or like by the church or something.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought that like something was said to him, like whether it was because they noticed something about him or because it was like just a sermon or like something that his dad maybe said about someone else who, was gay, right? Where it's like
wouldn't have been as bad because it's not their family, but the moment it's part of their family, then it's the worst thing ever. Yeah. And just also the way that Eddie insists, like, I chose this life for a reason, is also giving very much like this is who I am. I can't change that. sort of thing. Even though in this case, he is actively choosing to be a firefighter in LA. But, you know, again, it can so easily translate.
But it can be read as I'm choosing to live authentically.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's about his authenticity. And also, like, how does he not hear this? Oh, how does he not hear the words that are coming out of his mouth? He's that repressed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's also just dealing with the Shannon stuff right now.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all that you can see. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't even catch that. That's great.
And I think there was just one more thing that I really... So we don't end on like as much of a downer, maybe? I don't know. Just one very brief thing. So when we talked a little bit about how Buck in the hospital room when he wakes up and Allie's there and he's like, "You're here?" And that just kind of reminded me a little bit of in the last episode when Shannon had her accident and Eddie gets to her and she's like, "Are you here? Like, are you really here?" That kind of thing. And then that kind of made me think of looking forward in season 4 with the shooting once Buck gets Eddie into the fire truck and Eddie's like, "Are you hurt?" So I don't know exactly. I just felt like those needed to like be.
No, I mean, it's like it's all while injured, right? And the injured party is talking to the
significant
one
other
who isn't. Yeah, the significant other who isn't injured.
It's interesting because with Buck to Allie and Shannon to Eddie, it's like, "Are you here? Are you actually here?" Where it's more concerned about like, you know, "Are you here for me?" sort of thing. Like, but with Eddie, it's so unconcerned with himself. It's like, "Are you hurt?"
Actively bleeding out. "Are you hurt?"
Eddie's not even like, "Are you here?" Because I mean, he knew Buck was there in the first place, but it's the "Are you hurt?" And I feel like all three of these are very similar, but the "Are you hurt?" is a little bit different. But it is also interesting that we get one for each of them. So like Buck says it, Shannon says it, Eddie says it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So I don't know. I just felt like there was connective tissue there. I love a long, slow burn segment. I feel like we haven't had one this long in a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
I think that does it. I'm excited to dive into some season arc things for the season 2 wrap. So that will be exciting. And then we'll be getting into
what's even more exciting?
Getting into season 3.
Can't wait to close season 2 out.
Tsunami arc.
We have some fun things planned for that. We have maybe some guests if it all works out.
We have friends. We definitely have friends. friends.
I love Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, man. That is one of the best shows.
It's really good.
Also has the best bisexual song. Remember, don't get crushed by a ladder truck.
But if you do,
take a buddy with you.
Thank you for listening to the Buddy System podcast from start to finish.
We literally cannot shut up about 911, so please come talk to us on your favorite social media platform.
We're at Buddy System Pod everywhere. That's BUDDIE System Pod. Leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to get a personal shout out in the next episode. The Buddy System is a Nerd Virgin Media production featuring music from Divinity.
Can't get enough of the buddies? Subscribe to our Patreon for access to exclusive content in our Discord community.
Catch you next time, and don't forget,
bring a buddy with you.